2+2 is proud to bring you the 2+2 Pokercast, presented by the Pokerstars VIP Club.
This week on the Pokercast, Eli Elezra, Jonathan Duhamel, Scott Vener, and high-stakes cash at the Aria with Jamie Staples. Now, here they are. All right, Noel. Adam and Terrence!
Welcome, everybody, to the 2+2 Pokercast presented by the Pokerstars VIP Club. I'm your host, A. Schwartz. Joining me in studio this week is our producer, Roscoe P. Coltrane.
Hi. Nice to be on your show again.
Not in our studio is poker player extraordinaire and final table maker, one Terrence Chan. Terrence, welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you, and hello from incredibly hot Las Vegas. And I know, like, bitching about the heat in July in Las Vegas is like a, well, duh.
Obviously.
But it's even actually setting records by, like, Las Vegas standards. I think I saw on one of these links that June had more 105-plus degree days than it's ever had in Las Vegas. So I don't even know what 105 is in Celsius. I think it's like 42-ish. So
40 is 110.
No, it's not. Like 37 is 99. Yeah. So
right.
But anyway, it's freaking hot, and all I'm saying is that I'm just glad I'm indoors and not like sweating in my drive. Like it's sweating so much that I can crank the AC in the car like to the maximum, and I drive like this little shitty rental car, but the AC is decent, but it's still a small car, and I'm like sweating through my clothes on the drive to the Rio every day. It's wonderful.
Oh my god, that doesn't sound fun. It's boiling here, and it's like 31
really?
when we're whining. Yeah, it's nothing like Vegas in the summer. Hopefully, at some point, that World Series of Poker thing happens in another part of the year. But
yeah, exactly. Or like we said last week or 2 weeks ago, World Series of Poker Portland. Here we come.
Yeah, indeed.
Portland's still pretty hot in the summer.
It's not bad.
It's hotter than Vancouver. It's in between.
Probably.
Happy Canada Day.
Yeah.
Terrence, you surrounded by any Canadians?
I am not today, other than my girlfriend, who's obviously with me, also being Canadian. But no, I did not get a single Happy Canada Day, at the World Series this year. Maybe nobody knew I was Canadian. I often wear, like, a Team Canada hockey jersey when I'm playing on Canada Day.
Yeah.
But I did not advertise today in my very Canadian way. I just kind of waited hung around hoping other people would wish me Happy Canada Day, but I didn't want to impose on, it's America, and I didn't want to push too hard, and I behaved very Canadian, so no Canadians.
I'm not a pessimist, I'm an optometrist.
I was impressed by how many Americans took to Twitter and were saying Happy Canada Day to my Canadian friends.
Yeah, because they have to all play online poker somewhere.
Well, because then they figure out when Canada Day is because they've spent some time in Canada.
Exactly. Like, I mean, it's like their adopted homeland for like 4.5 months out of the year, so that they can play internet pokers.
Yeah. Unless you don't decide to leave the U.S. and still play, but that's another story altogether. Did you? Before we get on to some of the other stuff, first of all, if you're a podcast listener, T, I know you listen to a lot of podcasts.
Of course.
And Ross pointed this out. Mark Maron made some pretty epic podcast history last week. I don't know if you saw this.
It blew up the Twitters, for sure.
Yeah, President Barack Obama decided to head on over to Maron's place and record his WTF podcast that he does out of his garage. A pretty cool story. I mean, podcasts are still sort of this fringe form of entertainment. You come across people every day, saying, "Oh, what are podcasts?" Like, you have to explain podcasts still to people, right? I mean,
yeah, and not even just like old people. Like people my age have never ever heard a podcast.
Yeah. So for Obama to head on head over to Maron and do his show was pretty cool. I think that's going to do a lot for podcasting more than we
super awesome.
Think. Yeah, pretty neat. I haven't heard it. I want to listen to it. I haven't set aside any time to listen.
I actually, for some reason, I listened to an interview with Mark after that happened. I actually haven't listened to the show yet, but I listened to like the post just to hear like the like broadcaster perspective on it.
Oh, he was on opening.
He was on. Yeah, he I think he's just Opie now because Anthony got fired.
Oh, did he?
Yeah. That's a whole different story.
Yeah.
But it was an amazing story just to hear like how it all unraveled and what it's like having the President of the United States come over to your house.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I mean, I can imagine there were some interesting stories.
So, who would be your Obama dream guest?
Wow, good question. Who would be the dream guest? I don't know. T, who do you got? Who would be?
Oh yeah, sure. Throw it at me because you're stumbling.
I'm going to be thinking.
I have no idea.
While you're answering, I'm going to think.
Exactly. It's like when you're ordering with friends at a restaurant and the waiter comes around. You guys ready to order?
Exactly.
Yeah, he'll go first. Boy, I don't know. We talked about a month ago about having Tim Ferriss on because he had the poker thing. I mean, he's somebody I think is pretty cool to interview, but I can't think of anybody in terms of celebrity to them that I'm really so into that I would really just like to. And the cool thing kind of in this day and age is that most of the people that I like look up to or that I think are awesome are kind of accessible in some way or another. Just because there's this internet, most people if they're super popular, they have some kind of like contact form on their website, so you are able to reach them. And I mean, I think back to like when I started out in poker and I like Poker Heroes and stuff, it was very easy to like find them and email them, and they were always super nice and came back to me. So that's why I always try to do the same when people come up to me and say hi to me at the World Series and they listen to the podcast or they like my fight or whatever. I can't think. Yeah, so I mean, this is a really long-winded way of saying
GSP. I mean, there's got to be a fighter that you'd want to interview.
I mean, maybe there's actually. I mean, I don't think fighters are necessarily always great interviews. There's a guy, now that you mentioned, bring up the MMA world. GSP's coach is a guy named John Danaher, who is a guy I find fascinating. They call him the Sasquatch because for a long time he showed up, he never competed, he never did interviews or anything like that. Kind of like Kev Math, now that I think about it. But he was like the coach of GSP, and he must be an incredibly smart guy and somebody that I would definitely like to talk shop with and hang out.
I think mine, now that I think about it and have a few moments, would definitely probably end up being a hockey player. Gretzky doesn't really, I don't think...
You got to do Luongo. That was cool.
Well, yeah, Luongo was fun. I think Dave Tiger Williams would be my dream guest.
Really?
Yeah, because I've been in a room with him telling stories, and they're fantastic and hilarious, and he's got the whole place glued to every word of the old school hockey story. So I think probably Tiger would be pretty fun to have. Yeah, so Ross, what about you? Dream guest?
In terms of like epic person, I'd like to interview maybe like Louis C.K. or Adam Carolla in person.
Yeah. Carolla would be great.
Yeah.
No question. Talking about all kinds of different stuff.
Or maybe Joe Rogan. Somebody I listen to a lot.
Joe would be fun, yeah. Okay, so let's get to some World Series of Poker stuff. We had a ton of results happen since our last show. Why don't we break some of those down? Event 47. The final table is still underway. When we recorded last week, Pokercast favorite Andy Black was battling out for the bracelet in Event 47. He ends up fourth with Matt O'Donnell, he ends up fourth to Matt O'Donnell, wins his first bracelet. The rails apparently were pretty crazy in this one. There was 5-hour head-up battle. O'Donnell and the rails apparently were almost coming to blows. Like they were screaming and yelling at each other. It was like a gang war or something going on in there. Yeah, it was pretty funny. Event 48 was the $1,500 7-card stud. Ellie Elezra wins his third bracelet, $112,000, beating out 236 others. We're going to be joined by Ellie later on the break of the 10K horse. He's going to have 15 or 20 minutes for us. Not much time, but we'll sneak in a couple of questions. Event 49. Young G of Alaska wins his first bracelet in the $1,500 PLO 8 or better. That's an event where everybody all the rounders, all the old school poker players, the guys who have played a lot of cash, head for that event because the skill disparity seems to be largest in that one. Event 50, and we'll talk to Terrence about this one.
I'll say the skill. Sorry, I want to touch on PLO 8 because it is really interesting to me. You're an 08 player, but it's like you said, like there's a really high skill level, and like bad players can get kind of buried in it. But I think what's fascinating about PLO 8 is I don't think bad players realize that they get buried in it. It's just like one of these games where you don't realize. And often you get it in, and you're not really like in that bad of shape. But it's sometimes fascinating to me, like over time, how bad like players can get it in sort of repeatedly, and also as the pre-flop equities do run really super close. And it's really interesting. PLO 8 was one of the tournaments. The year that I cashed 10 times, it was one of the tournaments where I cashed with like one big blind because like I folded stuff like Ace King Queen 3. Because I had like 3 big blinds, knowing that somebody else would go broke. It's so nitty when I get short, specifically because because the all-in equity is one so close. So I just wanted to like add that kind of thought. It's like one of these games that draws a field that's much larger than it should, because it's not a game that's played very often. To be perfectly honest, it's played like a little bit on the internet, right? But it's not like you run around and there's like, you're running on the wind and there's like, there's 5-10 PLO 8 with a must move. It doesn't happen, right?
No, I think one of the reasons it draws a big crowd is it's fun. It's a fun game to play.
Yeah.
It just flat. I mean, that's just, the way I see it. And you're right. I think a lot of times people will make bad calls and, where they should be getting free rolled and they're not. So they end up getting half the pot. And it's sort of this negative reinforcement thing where,
right.
I had top 2 on the, King Jack 5-3 board. I had to call, and meanwhile the guy's got like ace 6, 7, 9
aces with a low draw,
or he's not, or he's in no trouble or whatever. And obviously I'm going to win there, or whatever, So mistakes aren't 100% obvious to bad players, where they are in no limit hold'em, right? Like, you get it in really bad, and it's pretty obvious. Whereas it's not obvious in the other one. All right, event 50. Let's take some time and talk about this event. This was
no, let's not. Let's just skip over it.
Let's go right over it.
Who cares about limit hold'em? No, screw it.
The 10K limit hold'em championship was won by Professor Ben Yu, 2+2er for a long time. He wins his first bracelet, and it's a long time coming. He's a very good player, a very good limit player, and been at the World Series for a while. He takes down prestigious 10K limit hold'em. It's got to be one of the toughest fields every year, Terrence. I know this is your specialty, and I talked to Dan as well. The field for this event has got to be one of the toughest fields of the year. This isn't you've been on top of the limit hold'em world for much of your career. However, I'm guessing you probably don't think you have a very big edge in this event.
Probably don't have a spectacular edge in this event, even though, like you said, I was pretty successful at the game for a while. Yeah, it's hard because it's one of these games that probably everybody has a lot of experience playing. It's not like one of those games where, it's often in the rotation. It's been around for forever, and so everybody's got a lot of experience. Very few people, at least entering this tournament, are going to be like truly terrible at it. The way that you can be bad at some of the games like Raz or Deuce to 7, and there are other games that you can screw up much more badly, as opposed to limit hold'em, where you tend to like, okay, I flopped the pair, I'm going to the river, and that being said, I feel like there aren't as many like high stakes games that involve limit hold'em anymore. I think it's been taken out of a lot of the mixes. You don't really see it run big online anymore. It's probably actually in the future, I feel like, going to get a little bit softer, just because people are a little less experienced. For example, someone like myself, I played, hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of limit hold'em hands in the mid 2000s, but I've barely played any at all in the last 3 years, just because those games don't really go. So, yeah, it's tough. Whether it's super tough relative to the other 10Ks is I'm not really qualified to answer. This is kind of the only 10K other than the main that I play. Someone like your brother, who plays a lot of the 10Ks. There's any of like the 20, 25 maybe guys who play all the 10Ks and all the stud 80 or better, Omaha 8 or better, pot limit hold'em, etc. Might be a bit better equipped to answer how tough it is relative to the others, but certainly there are very few absolute fish in this one, for sure.
Having said that, after talking about how tough the field is, our very own friend Kenny Shea ended up finishing 6th in this tournament, and he busted on a pretty bizarre hand. And I want to talk about this hand for a quick sec. Kenny raises under the gun all in, so he has, I'm guessing, less than...
like one big bet.
He probably didn't have 2 big bets. He raised all in under the gun. Justin Bonomo, see Justin on the button, 3 bets to 45,000. Alexander...
King, right?
He has ace king, yep. Yeah. Alexander Denisov calls from the big blind, 2 bets call with jack 9 off. First of all, not a fantastic
not a great
call.
Play when you've got a guy all in. No.
Yeah. So the flop comes queen 5-4, and Denisov checks, Bonomo bets. Denisov check raises to 30,000 with the Jack 9 off on the Queen 5-4.
I was in the commentary booth, and I'm really good friends with Kenny. We've known each other for many years. He's not a very well-known guy, but he's a great limit hold'em player, and I am just loving this.
Yeah, because Kenny's gonna have Jack 9 beat, right?
Yeah, he's got King High. We can see that in the commentary booth because we got the whole cards, and Justin's way ahead, and in fact dominating him. Like Kenny can only hit whatever his off card. I think it was
10.
like an 8.
10.
A 10? Okay. And here Denisov was like basically coming to his rescue. He can't actually win anything for himself, but he could bet Justin out of the pot. It's amazing.
Which was bizarre. I mean, like, this is such a basic tournament principle. Dry side pots you don't go nuts for. He's not going to win anything. He's never going to beat Kenny's hand with Jack High.
Well, from a game theory perspective, you actually do have to threaten to bet dry side pot sometimes because you often have to value bet, or you often want to value bet, right? So, like, if you literally never 0% of the time bluff the dry side pot.
But is this the spot to pick? I mean, it's just strange.
Yeah.
It's a strange spot when you're playing big bet.
To balance your
range in this exact spot. It's pretty crazy.
Kenny was a tremendous beneficiary of it. But go on.
So he check raises. Bonomo amazingly calls. So he's got Queen 5-4. Bonomo. If you're in Bonomo's seat, you've got ace high, and a guy into a dry side pot is check raising you. So it goes to your point that Justin's got to give him some sort of
you expect him to have ace king queen king queen a set lots of the time.
Right. You're up against a pretty strong range. Turn is the 8. Now Denisov checks. And River is another 8. Now Denisov bets and Bonomo calls with ace high.
Amazing. Like, Denisov gave Kenny every chance to survive this hand because Denisov still has unimproved Jack High. At this point now, there's actually a side pot that's kind of worth winning. It has a couple bets in it. But how epic would it have been if Justin folded? Denisov takes in the side and Kenny just survives with
and
the
then
main.
wins the tournament.
Justin probably would have lost his mind. Everybody else at the table is groaning because the short stack should have been busted. One of the weirdest, definitely one of the weirdest pots. Like, it's one of those pots where, like, if you thought that there was any relationship between the two guys, you'd almost think that they were colluding, right? But clearly, like, Denisov's like a random dude from Russia, like Kenny's guy from Boston, and there's nothing going on.
It was so
it's hilariously bizarre.
With you in the commentary booth, I was having a good time actually watching that Limit Hold'em final table. It was funny.
You jumped in. Did you commentate on your own hands?
Yeah, I did. It was
a half-hour delay, right?
So after I busted out, I didn't have my car. My girlfriend drove me to the Rio, so I just kind of was kind of stuck. I was texting her like, "Hey, can you come pick me up?" I busted, and then I was looking around, nothing to do, and Tatiana Pasalic actually asked me if I, to do commentary whenever I'm free, because they sometimes struggle to find people on there, and I thought, well, it would be pretty hilarious if I went in there and commented on my own bust out. So I take a peek inside the booth that's behind the Thunderdome, and nobody's in there. No Tuckman, no Tatiana, no other commentator, and I'm just kind of watching the stream, watching myself play on TV. And then finally, I walk around, go to the bathroom, Tuckman shows up, and I kind of wave through the window, and he gives me the wave in, and I walk in the door, and the first thing Tuckman says to me, he mutes his microphone, and he says, "Okay, the only problem is you haven't actually busted yet." So, of course, it's on a 30-minute delay. So now, and so the hand he's commentating ends. And then he introduces me into the booth as, well, we've brought in a Limit Hold'em specialist to talk about the rest of the final table. And it's literally the next hand on the stream that I bust. Yeah. I have pocket kings, and I'm a super short stack. I raise an early position, and Benyu calls, and I think he flops a gut shot and ends up getting there on the river. And and I'm still this anonymous voice. And I say, no, I think Terrence Chen should fold these kings. I think he's not really strong enough to play kings. This would be a terrible mistake if you were to play kings. And I have 2 bets at this point.
Right.
I had pocket kings, so I had a little bit of fun with it. And I commentated on my own bust out. Maybe a poker broadcasting first. I'm not sure.
Okay, I want to talk about your Limit Hold'em final table results. Okay, give us an idea of how many final tables you've made and where you've finished in these things.
That's a sad story. I've made 3 Limit Hold'em final tables at the World Series, 4 Limit Hold'em final tables at the World Series, and I have, I believe, 3rd, 7th, 8th, and 9th.
It's the low part of your distribution. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. I mean, my best, people know me as this limit specialist. My best finish is a no limit 6 max. That was a second. I think I have another no limit final table in there somewhere. It's like 6th or something like that. I'm close to hitting for the cycle basically at this point, Adam. Right?
Yeah.
So like there are 9 places you can finish at a poker table. I've got almost all of them except for first. So,
yikes! All right.
Yeah, it's a bit ugly. I seem to run great on day 2 of limit hold'em tournaments, and then once it's the final table, it's just a straight nosedive.
It was nice of you to forfeit your stack so we could get fantasy points.
Yeah.
Right, because we finished first and second.
And Jesse Martin in there, don't we?
Yeah, that was a nice one too.
I lost chips to both of them.
On the list of things people don't care about is our fantasy teams and how busy you are. Those are the two things people don't want to hear about.
Exactly.
Event 51, Justin Liberto wins the 3K No Limit Hold'em 6 Max for $640,000. His first bracelet. This guy, he's had an amazing year. He's entered 8 World Series of Poker circuit events. He entered 8 of them, made 4 final tables, and won twice. I mean, that's
being good at the 2-card no limit game.
That's very good at the 2. And then, of course, takes down his first bracelet here, $640,000. All these no limit hold'em events have, large. We're talking $500,000-$600,000 for these things. We're not seeing that, of course, we never have really in the mixed games. But for those that saying the World Series of Poker is dying and nobody's coming out to these events, there's still huge purses in these 2-card unlimited betting events. There's no shortage of big purses there. I mentioned Justin won it. Seamus Cahill finished second. Seamus.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to go.
That's a little shot at Remco's.
He might know where Kells is.
Yeah, he's got to connect where Kells is.
He's got to connect.
Event 52. This one was an interesting story to say the least. This was the $1,500 dealer's choice. 18 games to pick from to play in this thing. Stackfield. Here's where all the mixed guys are thinking, they're licking their chops. I get to call my favorite game whenever it comes to my turn, or I can pick a game that these guys aren't very good at. And I remember Dan went deep last year. Robert Mizraki, I believe, ended up winning it. So, some solid players definitely have good results on this thing. This was the first event taken down by a woman in an open event this year at the World Series of Poker. This was won by Carol Fuchs from LA. She's actually a screenwriter. She's part of the Hollywood community. She plays at the Commerce. She plays PLO, cash games. This is a hard one to fluke out. I mentioned how tough this field is going to be. You're going to be playing against guys playing their best games. So that was a pretty fascinating story that she took that thing down. One of the listeners to our show, Austin Spina, played in the event. He broke us off a little 2% free roll for the karma, but I don't believe he cashed. Terrence, did you play that event?
No, I think I had a conflict. I think I was maybe in something else. I'm also just a massive nit because, you mentioned all the different games, and I believe there were 16 possible dealer's choice games, and I am not
18.
18. Okay, 18 possible dealer's choice. And I'm not a good Badesi player just because I don't play in those mixed games, and I feel like an extreme nit for not doing it. And apparently it's just such a ton of fun in the tournament, but I was worried that I was going to get exploited late in the tournament. And I talked about this with a lot of mixed game pros, and a lot of them said, Badusi's probably just the game to call because people are going to play very poorly at it, just having not only just having no experience at it, but it's also not the easiest game to intuit. As we talked about games like Raz, where you can sort of just get it if you do, or even No Limit Deuce. I think that's probably the best example. No Limit Deuce, the guy who won the 1500 this year had never played it before,
right?
But he's a good poker player. Badesi is probably one of those games where even if you're good at poker, you don't necessarily get it if you don't have experience. A lot of those high-limit guys do have experience. So I was worried about kind of getting shelled in the late rounds at some of the games that I'm weaker at. But, hats off to Carol Fuchs, who just gave no Fuchs.
She
gave
anyway. 0 Fuchs.
Yes.
Good for her. Event 53 was the 10K women's buy-in women's championship. 10K if you have a penis, 1K otherwise. I don't think any men paid the 10K this year. 795 women played. 66-year-old American Jacqueline Scott takes down her first bracelet in the Women's Championship, $153,000. Notable because Jacqueline Scott is Brian Hastings' realtor.
Yeah.
Which
What? Really?
is crazy. Yeah, that's nuts. This is the summer of Hastings, both good and bad. It's pretty strange how it's working out.
It's pretty funny. Apparently, he was trying to get out of his one-drop table to run over, and he was trying to get them to postpone her winner's photo so he could run across the Rio and to get into it.
Event 54 was won by Alexander Peterson, who was Alex KPR, I believe, online.
Alex KP, yeah.
Yeah, he beats out an impressive field, 387 people to win the 10K PLO. Jason Mercer had a 3-1 chip lead starting head-up play.
Biggest, sorry, Adam. That's got to be the biggest non-Hold'em 10K, right?
Oh, yeah.
I think that's by a good margin. 387 players. PLO is a big, hugely popular game now to World Series.
People like the 4-card thing.
Yes, indeed. It's a fun game to play. Mercer had a 3-1 chip lead starting head up, but Alexander quickly doubled up before he stacked. So he doubles up in a hand, and before he's even he's stacking his chips, the very next hand they play. Now I think Peterson has a slight lead. They get it all in, and he wins. So he goes from 3-1 chip dog to winning the whole poker tournament 2 hands later, which was pretty great. He ends up winning $927,000, his first ever career cash at the World Series of Poker. Amazing. He's as I mentioned, a PLO nosebleed player online.
Yeah, he's really good.
Remember, we were worried about Mercier and how tough a summer he was having. He wins $572,000, adding on to his huge win earlier to a pretty successful summer. With
so, Ross, did you watch the stream? You're a big PLO fanboy.
Yeah.
Did you watch the stream? I was impressed because I thought that the non-Hold'em ones didn't have hole cards, but this one had hole cards, so it was fun to watch.
It was very fun. I enjoyed. Mercier played amazing. Who the Topman or whatever his name was from England? That guy,
Simon Aces Trumper.
Oh man, that guy made some extremely questionable plays. He was.
I agree.
He was playing Badoogie hands. I think he was trying to play Badoogie.
Well, to me, it didn't draw the hand selection. And I don't want to crap on anybody too hard, but to me, the hand selection wasn't quite as bad as some of the missed value bets. There was a hand where he makes the nut flush. And the board is 2-paired, and Jason Mercier, I believe it's blind on blind, checks to him twice. And then you basically have the nuts in that situation, because it's not like Hold'em where double-paired board means full house like a lot, or it means you're not going to get paid off by things other than full house. Like in Omaha, double-paired board is like good when you have a flush, because it makes it much less likely
card removal,
because you actually have to have 2 of those cards on the board. There were some other situations. The commentators, I don't know who they were, but they were also sort of commenting on that. But Simon Trumper's been around the English poker scene for quite a while. I remember this was one of the guys that I used to watch, when Britain used to do their a lot of poker television, so he was around. But
late night poker.
Somebody even told me that his nickname is Aces because he just kind of sits around waiting for the nuts. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but
doesn't seem like
it was
in this scenario.
Definitely a tough field, but he did well. So what do we know?
Event 55 was the much anticipated DraftKings sponsored $1,500 no limit hold'em 50-50 event, where half the field cash. Hundreds of people min cashed for $1,000 in a $1,500 event. Another 150 or so after that cashed for $1,500, and then the money went up from there. A friend of the show, Matt Affleck, went deep. He ended up finishing in 6th. Which wasn't for a lot of money, because most of the prize pool was distributed early, unfortunately. I tried to watch the stream, but there was this one guy that was taking forever, every hand when it was to him to fold like napkins nonstop.
We freaked out ago that when you and I did commentary at him on the
other guy
final table.
Yeah. And it's just really hard to watch.
The DraftKings tournament was interesting because I had friends who were in the room going like, "Oh my god, this is the softest tournament I've ever played in," and it's like, well, yeah, like because you're paying half the field. Like the selection bias of the people who want to play this event is ridiculous. So I saw that, and then I busted out of some tournament, and I can't remember. I think it was a 5K Turbo, and then I was walking through the stone bubble of the DraftKings. So it's whatever. It's 700 players left or whatever. It's the biggest. It's the largest bubble outside the main event because of how many number of people in it.
Yeah.
And I just happened to be on the rail and I'm watching it hand and it's the only, in the San Fran, the dealer stand. So I see there's one table, there's action still going on. I'm like, oh, let's see what's going on this table. The board is ace, king, jack 10, X with no pair on board and no flush on board. And the guy, there's an all-in bet. And the guy who with his back to me picks up his hands and I can see that he has a queen in his hand. I can't remember what it was, but he picked up a hand, he's like queen. And he is tanking.
What?
He has the nuts.
And there's nobody behind him?
And I don't know if he did not know that he can't lose this pot, because he sort of got this look that's like, oh my god, I have a straight, like what am I supposed to do here? I don't want to bubble this turn. It's like, you can't bubble. You have the nuts. I mean, the other guy probably has the same hand as you, but you actually can't lose here, so I don't know what you're thinking about. Finally he does call, and gee, big shocker, they chopped the pot.
Was he last to act?
Yeah. The other guy's all in.
Oh, there's nobody else in that. Wow, that's
I
crazy.
think he led the river, and the other guy's got like a huge stack in front of him. So I mean, obviously, like any sane person realizes they both have a queen at this point, right?
Right.
But when he starts tanking, I don't know what the other guy must be thinking. He's like, "Oh my god, this is great." The other guy's a set. Like
he's thinking about calling.
Yeah, he's thinking about literally tanking. I had to look at the board like 4 times. I asked somebody else what the board was just to make sure I wasn't blind, because these cards are hard to see.
That is the definition of a nit roll right there.
That is a nit roll. I mean, even for only half the pot, that is one hell of a nit roll.
Event 56 was the 5K Turbo. It was taken out by Kevin McPhee. They played this in under 2 days, which for a lot of people was a happy thing, considering how long some of these events are going this year. His first bracelet, Kevin McPhee, of course, long-time tournament grinder, and nice to see him take it down. The story of this event, though, the final table, was a hand that happened when they were 3-handed at the final table. Terrence, I want to get your take on this. Chip leader Pascal Theodosiadis, I nailed that.
Very nice.
Opens for $260K on the button. He's the chip leader, 3-handed. Igor Tereshevsky shoves for $2.6 million, so open 260, shove 2.6 in the small blind, and McPhee shoves in the big blind for $3.9 million, so he reshoves. The opener in the button, Pascal, has queens, and he open folds the queens. The small blind has ace-jack. McPhee has ace-10 suited. The Russian wins the hand to leave McPhee as the short stack. But he would have won with the 2 queens. He would have won the bracelet right there. Can you? MJ would love that fold, by the way. He would just be like, "Nice fold." But can you imagine yourself holding queens there?
Well, I mean, if I'm going to, this seems like one of the spots. I assume they both had Pascal. Oh no, chip leader.
Chip leader. Pascal's the chip leader.
So okay, I mean, he opened for 260, so I'm guessing the blinds are like 60, 120 or at this point. Something looks like that. Maybe 50, 100. So McPhee's shove is somewhere between 35 and 40 big blinds. I mean, the ball's on McPhee to reship there.
Yeah,
is itself really amazing after this very large shove of 10x the open. Anyway, boy, I feel like I'm just setting myself up for people to take shots at me. But yeah, I don't hate the fold at all.
Wow, really?
My mind is blown that McPhee shoves what I would guess is 35 to 40 big blinds there. But I mean, it's button, small blind, big blind. It is totally true that the ranges are probably ought to be a lot wider than people think it is. Still, to be able to do that in that spot, if you're McPhee and just say, "Fuck ICM, it's going out the window. I feel like ace-10 suit is strong enough here. I'm shoving it all in." And I bet I didn't watch the stream, but I'll bet he did it fairly confidently. And that probably startled Pascal a little bit. So, I mean, one of the things is when you have a really thin situation between folding and shoving, the confidence with which you shove makes a tremendous amount of difference. And people can overdo that or overact that. But if McPhee sits there and tanks and tanks and tanks and tanks and tanks and spends like a minute and a half before shoving, I don't think Pascal is folding those queens there, because he can't possibly think that McPhee is tanking there with kings, right? So, by definition, that your queens have to be at least good against him, even if they're not good against Cherishevsky. I mean, that's sort of my analysis of that.
I can't imagine ever folding queens three-handed in that spot.
And legit three-handed, right? Like three-handed button, small blind, big blind.
Yeah.
And with no other people in the hand. It's not like the three-handed where you're like, oh, under the gun, raise, under the gun, +1, re-raise, and like one of the blind shift. Like legit, like three-handed,
right.
Three guys get cards poker is queens. Queens is a very big hand. Yeah. I mean,
bracelet. You got the bracelet right there. You call, you win.
That's true. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, it must have happened. Has anybody ever won a bracelet without ever playing a hand of heads up? It's got to have happened. It's got to have happened, but I can't think of it happening at any time in the last.
No, wasn't there that WPT in Montreal ended in like a 4-way all-in?
Yeah, that was insane.
That
was like the most insane finish to a tournament ever. That looked like they just like removed all the non-face cards from the deck. That one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't remember that it's ever happened in a WSOP event anytime in recent history. That would have been pretty cool if was the Queens would have held up. I don't remember.
Queens would have held up. Yeah, he would have won. He ends up finishing third.
So he would have won without playing heads up, which would have been kind of cool.
Event 57, Takahiro Nakao wins the first bracelet this year for Japan. I wonder how many they've won. They can't be a lot. There's not a ton of Japanese players.
I think it's the first one, period. I thought I saw that on WSOP.com, but I could be wrong. It might have been just the first of the year, but I think I remember seeing that it was the first one.
Makes sense. He wins $400,000. He beat Mel Weiner heads up. Mel last cashed in the World Series of Poker in 2006 and won a bracelet in 1996. He does have one bracelet, which pretty cool that Mel came back and battled and almost took that thing down. Event 58 was this year's version of the big one for one drop. It was a $111,000 buy-in, $11,000 going to charity. I don't believe they raked the tournament.
Correct.
But I
That's
could be
correct.
wrong.
The little one gets raked, but the big one does not get raked by Harris. It only 5% goes to the One Drop Foundation, but the house does not take anything for themselves or for the dealer staff, as opposed to the little one, which does take 10% for that.
Oh, I see. Okay, so of the 111,000, you're saying 106,000 or something goes to the prize pool?
Yeah, 5%. So 5,555 goes to One Drop, and whatever 10,500, 400, 104 something. Yeah, goes to the prize pool.
The 135 entries, which a good number for a 100K buy-in, was won by a good Canadian kid, Jonathan Duhamel. I managed to get a hold of Jonathan. We're going to bring him in the second segment. He's going to talk to us on break, just like Ellie. He's going to talk to us on break in the 10K horse, so he's only going to have about 15 minutes for us, but we'll get into a couple of things from that one drop, so that'll be fun, T. Let's get to some In Case You Missed It.
How did he miss the open goal? 6x4, and he comes up 0.
Oh, yes! He missed it!
He's missed it! How on earth did he miss that?
In case you missed it, Terrence, we talked about it last week with Jean Robert. There is a giant cash game going on over at the Aria, $250,000 buy-in. This is in conjunction with the Super Big Bowl of Poker, or whatever it's called, the $500,000 buy-in event that's starting tomorrow, I believe.
Many zeros.
Many zeros. The Stanley Cup of Poker. Yeah, I'm not sure who ended up winning the celebrity poker shootout. I couldn't find. Remember, we talked about the $1 million buy-in tournament for celebrities that they were having. And I believe Vanessa Selps took it down. Somebody mentioned that on Twitter, but I couldn't find any sort of definitive.
There was so much press, so much more press before it.
Yeah, but nothing actually. We'll find out what happened.
So it was like $100K for pros to buy in.
Something. I don't know exactly how it worked.
For the celebrities, or
don't know how it happened. If anybody knows, maybe come in the show thread this week and talk about it. All right, so that's going on over at the Aria. This is the big cash game. One of the guys that is talking about this cash game and doing the online commentating is Jamie Staples. Jamie, welcome back to the show.
Hey guys, thanks again for having me on. This is cool.
Happy Canada Day.
Yeah, happy Canada. Right, it's all Canadians today.
Exactly. You booked this. You did this totally coincidentally, Adam, but you just booked Canadian guest for us.
Yeah. I feel a little bit bad, guys, being in Las Vegas. I didn't have a chance to go out last night, but I was there in spirit having a beer with all of you.
Fantastic.
I was just talking today, Jamie, about, usually I kind of like to play the World Series wearing some kind of Canada jersey, but I left it at home, and I didn't even remind anybody that it was Canada Day. So, it was a very, very difficult book for me.
Yeah, I feel you, man. I let everyone know in the production crew. I don't think there's a Canadian in the house. I let them know, what was going on. So,
but you try not to make a big deal of it, right?
I kind of pushed it. I let them know it was a big
guy.
There you go. Jamie, give us, first of all, your take on doing this, getting asked to broadcast something that's going to get a lot of attention. I saw there was between 10 and 20,000 people at any one time watching this when I was live streaming it on Twitch. A lot of fun, but challenging as well, I'm sure.
Absolutely, yeah. When they first contacted me, of course, I was flattered and honored to be asked. And I said, of course. So I showed up here day one and sort of realized what I'd gotten myself into, and that this was not, streaming in your mother's basement with pajama pants. This is like a full production going on. So it took a while to get into it, but now that I've been doing it this is the third day right now, it's been really, really awesome. I mean, the teams that are working on this, Poker Central as well as Poker Productions, both putting on a great show. So, yeah, it's been totally awesome.
Well, there's one big thing with this group of players that you have, and I know there were some people complaining a little bit about it, was the table talk that you're going to get from these guys. I mean, I think back to some of the full tilt, $20,000 buy-in things, the late night pokers that they had. They weren't as table as the table talk wasn't as interesting because it was the same guys getting together, and you'd seen it so many times, so it wasn't really that interesting. But when you get guys that have been in the middle of the big games in Macau or the big games at the Aria or in Bobby's room, what have you, and they're talking about different hands and different stuff that's going on, it's got to be hard to not sit down and just listen to these guys.
Oh, absolutely. That's been our focus over the 3 days. I knew that all the players were going to be mic'd up, so no one wants to hear me talk about a range of hands when Sam Trickett is selling some story about 10 million Hong Kong pot or anything like that. So absolutely, if you are a railbird like I am, some of the stories we've heard over the couple of days, specifically yesterday when we had a bunch of the young guns at the table, has been amazing. And I think a really good setup by them to mic up all the players and keep it focused on them. I think it's really smart.
Now, Jamie, I know that and I know Adam wanted to touch on this too, but it's a bit tough spot for you commentating without the hole cards, and you can't exactly see everything and analyze play, which is a really tough spot for you as a commentator.
Well, because you can't even see at the end of the hand. Sometimes they were rolling the hands over, and they're on their backs for 4 seconds. You don't have an overhead shot, so you don't even know what hands they were at the end sometimes.
It's definitely been an adjustment for sure. I appreciate the difference between the edited shows and the live shows now, in that it's all on the fly. We had to do an interview yesterday on the fly with no prepared questions, and that's just something I'm not good at yet. So there has been times where you have to go off this sort of preconceived idea of what to talk about in downtime. But I still think it's entertaining anyways, and I can't wait for the show on October 1st when we have all those hole cards.
I just wanted to ask, with that being said, who in the lineup impressed you? We've got a very diverse lineup of old school pros and online guys and famous people. Whose play impressed you?
There's been so many different players. I think someone that's played 2 days, and he's currently playing today, is John Robert, who over the past couple of years there's been, the broke living stories, right? But it appears to me that he's playing fairly well and seems to have a flush bankroll, so I think he's doing pretty well in the game. Scott Seaver as well. I always respected him being a tournament player myself. Some people that are high up in the game, I think, consider him to be one of the best tournament players there is. But in the cash game yesterday, he made, I think, 400,000, 500,000, something like that, in a very tough lineup. So I would give the nod to him in that I don't think of him as much as a cash player, but maybe I have to revisit that.
He played a really interesting pot with Dan Colman, out of position on a king-high board. I think they went to War Pre, and they were both very, very deep. And the flop came king-high. After the run out, 3 kings was still the nuts, so there was no straight, no flush. And Scott bet $300,000 into Dan Colman on the river, and Dan kind of sat back and tanked and said he had aces and put Seaver on kings and said kings is the only hand that makes sense here, and ends up folding the 2 aces for I think the pot was about $800,000 after Scott bet the $300 on the river. But yeah, I mean, some of these pots are just so much fun to watch, even without the hole cards. And that hand specifically is interesting because I can't wait now till October 1st when this is going to be on TV to find out exactly what Scott had in that hand. But I want to get back to setting it up a little bit. It's a $250,000 buy-in cash game at the Aria. The blinds are 400 and 800, I believe, Jamie. And let's get back to the starting lineup, though. It started off with Doyle, Ellie. Oh no, sorry, not Ellie. Doyle, Antonio, Johnny Chan, JRB, Bill Bright, and Phil Ivey, I believe. So, I mean, interesting lineup, but I'm not sure about Bill Bright at all. I've never really seen him play, but he looked like he was holding his own fairly well.
An interesting guy, played blackjack, apparently got banned from all the casinos everywhere, then became a day trader, and now is retired and playing in the big poker games. So I was expecting when he showed up to see some swings, to see him come out swinging. But, he was a little bit more cautious than I thought. And I think the players were a little bit surprised, too. I think they expected him to come out swinging a little bit more. But, yeah, that original lineup was just like old-school high-stakes poker, with Doyle and Johnny Chan in there, Phil Ivey. I thought, like, a pretty awesome lineup. It was a fun day.
Jennifer Tilley as well, and she got into it pretty quickly with both Antonio and Doyle. She ends up running it twice for her whole stack with Antonio and manages to get half, and then she raises under the gun with the deuce 3 of clubs, and it folds around to Doyle in the big blind, who calls with 7-6, and the flop comes 4-5-6. Doyle had 7-8, so they both flop the top and bottom. It was kind of cooler if you call
or
raising
an
under the gun.
advertisement not to raise with 3 deuce suited under the gun. One of those two things is definitely true.
Exactly, but Jennifer, always entertaining to watch on television. She's talkative, plays a lot of hands, and I thought that was a pretty interesting hand. But as the cash game went on, the lineup changed. And I thought it got a lot more interesting, to be honest. Andrew Robl came in. This is last night. Andrew Robl, Patrick Antonius, Dan Colman, Scott Seaver, Paul Newey, Doug Polk was there, as well as Aussie Matt Kirk. And this guy made the game something else. I guess he's been in town. He openly admitted, and this is more of this chat that's going on in this game. He says, I'm down $4 million this week. He dusted off two $250 buy-ins pretty quickly, and then took off and went and played open face Chinese for really big money. So the guys were commentating on that, which was really interesting because I think Scott had, or one of the players in the game had some small piece or bet against him. No, it was Colman bet against him, so they were sweating that game. It was a giant nosebleed open face Chinese. But that Matt Kirk, Jamie, was an interesting fellow.
Well, I can tell you when I got here this morning, he was still playing open face Chinese. So that game spanned, a whole another 12 hours after the show shut down, and he was still here this morning. I haven't checked if he's still here. He could be. I don't know. Yeah, I'm Team Kirk all the way. I mean, what an amazing character. Flipping for stacks, like not stopping to talk at the table, just constant chatter. Man, they needed him in that game too because it was a bunch of wizards, really good players. So there was a lot of action and squeezing pre-flop, but without Kirk, it would have been like heads-up action, whereas it was three-way pretty much every hand. So, yeah, I mean, thank God he was there. It was so awesome.
Is a lot of the squeezing, do you think, due to the ante structure? Adam briefly mentioned it, but 400 with a 200 ante, a really, really high ante structure. Do you have any thought? Is this something that the producer said, oh, maybe these guys will start playing some more garbagey hands if we make the ante really high, or do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I think so. Thinking back to like old school high stakes poker, that used to mean going, 6 ways to the flop, right? Whereas this played a little bit differently. So I think they still had the same idea that like, okay, you introduce the ante, everyone's incentivized to play a whole bunch. But now it's a little bit more pre-flop play. So for sure, I think it's resulting from that. just means getting in more pots, for sure.
You're a Twitch guy. I mentioned there's between 10 and 20,000 people, at least what I saw at any one time. There are over 1 million views now for the game. And when you have that many people on Twitch on your channel, as Jamie, you know this, the chat becomes almost it just flies by. I'm watching this chat wondering, why is anybody even bothering? Because by the time you finish typing in whatever you're going to say, it's off the screen and nobody can read it. But I did catch one. Somebody said Doyle is 5 days older than fire, and I got a good kick out of that one. But what's the Twitch experience like? I know that's comfortable for you, and it seems like it's a pretty big hit.
Yeah, it's very different than when you have 10,000, 15,000 people. It's very different than when you have like 2,000 or something like that, because it just becomes like a running joke. There's nothing productive happening, so it's like, who can be the funniest? In the 1 second that your chat's going to be on the screen. So, and you pair that with the Poker Central channel not being around for very long. People don't really know who I am. They don't know who we are. Most of the traffic has been from the front page of Twitch. We've been on there for 8 hours a day each day. So that's where a lot of the traffic is coming from. It's been interesting, right, and harsh, right? But that's what you can expect with a new channel like this. And I think people are coming around. It's starting to feel a little bit more like home now as we're getting into day 3.
One of the hands, Terrence, I don't know if you saw this, but there was a raise and a call, I believe. The flop came ace, queen, queen, which was interesting, not by the flop, but the fact that both queens were both the queen of clubs. And
finally, this happened, and I don't have to hear about the ultimate poker 2-9 of clubs happening, so it finally happened in live poker. Thank God.
Exactly. And nobody noticed, though, right away. That was the weird thing. Like, it was I think it was a bet and fold, and they'd spread the flop out, and everybody's like, wait a second. There's the people on the stream are saying, wait, there's 2 queens of clubs, and then I think it occurred to one of the players in the game, and it was just one of those things you don't see very very rarely in live play alone, like if you're playing, but never mind on TV, Jamie.
Yeah, through the magic of production, I heard about 5 minutes before it happened, like, hey, this hand comes out and there's 2 queens of clubs. You're gonna have to talk about this. So, thankfully they fed me a lot of information, but I was freaking out for 5 minutes, not really sure what to do, because obviously this is so rare, and I knew the chat was just going to spam rigged, and it was going to devolve into chaos. But thankfully the people here at the Aria, we had the cash game director, Leon, come on, and apparently it was just like a manufacturer error where there was 2 queen of clubs. They fanned it out, and the dealer missed it when they fanned, and sort of that was that. So, like a very sort of live production type moment there, but thankfully it was a small pot. It got caught quickly, and
thankfully it happened on the flop, because you can easily imagine a situation where 2 different players both have the queen of clubs in their hands, or one guy looks down and he just thinks he has black pocket queens and he doesn't actually bother. I do that all the time. I look down, I have the red queens, and I'm like, well, I know which 2 queens I have, so I don't think about it anymore. But when it comes out on the flop, that's actually like the best case scenario, really, because something really bad could have happened. There could have been a really big pot generated where like 2 guys thought that they have a queen eye flush or something like that.
That's right, yeah. The rule is like the hand has to be immediately dead, so you're absolutely right.
That's like your nightmare, right? So you ever have poker nightmares? It's always, I looked at my cards and I had, a flush, and
the cards changed.
I put all my money in, and I look back and the cards have changed. Yeah, it would have been pretty funny. That would have been a better way to catch this for the entertainment value. And it was funny, like a couple hands later, Robl gets all in with Doug Poke Pre with ace queen, and against Doug's 2 kings, and Seaver says Robl's expert. He knows there's 5 queens in the deck.
Yeah, what's the equity? Like, what? Nobody's ever run the 2 dimes equity of what's ace queen against kings when there's 5 queens in the deck.
It was funny. Yeah, it was good humor. All right, it ended kind of awkwardly, Jamie, in a big hand with Robl and Aussie Matt Kirk. Kirk had 3-bet Paul Newey pre-flop. Robl right behind him in the Jesus seat, 4-bet him because Matt's nose was wide open. He was on pretty clear. He was on tilt from all the losses he's run up over the last week. And they get in a raising war, and Robl ends up taking the pot down, but he raises on the turn when a scare card comes, and Matt folds his air, and Robl shows him the queen high. And kind of puts him on tilt a little bit, and Matt's like, "Why you asked me back here?" And it seemed like he was kind of getting a little upset, like maybe Andrew rubbed it in his face or something. What did you make of all that, Jamie?
That hand was insane, right? Because when Robl raised on the turn, like Aussie Matt had 1/5 of the pot left, right? He bet, almost a third of his stack, and he had 50,000 with like 250K in there. So like the bluff was just crazy. And then you could see on his face like he was pretty tilted, especially to be bluffed like that on TV against Robl. I sense there's some history there. So I mean, that hand was brutal and glorious. It was just like pure reality of how sick this game can be.
From a hand analysis standpoint, Jamie, like can you think of the thought process of, and I'm putting you in a tough spot, but can you think of the thought process of Robl, first of all, making it 50K with the old queen 5, calling a raise, floating the flop, and then like jamming for 1/5 pot there? Like, is that just a ridiculous soul read, or do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's very interesting, and again, like, I'm definitely out of my element. I imagine there's huge history that goes into determining how they played this hand, and they're both obviously just such sickos that they determined, like, hey, you don't have it, so I'm just going to go to the end of the world. The one thing I did think was interesting was Kirk, leaving room for Robl on the turn when he could have shoved, and his shove would have been about half the pot. Instead, he bet around 1/5 of the pot, and he left some money behind. And he kind of opened himself up to that happening on him. But again, like I wouldn't advise taking my advice here. These guys are the experts. So.
Yeah, he seemed upset. He had 85,000, I believe, left, and then wanted to do a flip with anybody who wanted to flip with him. And Andrew agreed that he would for the 85,000. He ends up losing the flip. Nobody else flipped. I was surprised. I thought maybe some more guys at that table might jump in on the flip, but they didn't. Robl wins the flip, and Matt sort of storms off after swearing a little bit, and clearly he was pretty upset. But give us an idea. What's to come? When does the cash game end? Are they going to keep it running without TV? Give us an idea what's happening now.
Well, the game today is pretty insane. There was a lot of comments this morning about there's no big names, but I mean, we got John Morgan, we got Bill Klein, Al DeCardis, Rick Solomon, Brandon Steven, Bill Perkins, and Bobby Baldwin. So
wow,
I think
Bobby Baldwin's a great draw there.
Yeah, today, the last day, we have potential in the next couple hours to see the biggest televised pot of all time, which is 1.2 million up till now. But these guys are going to swing. They're all super wealthy guys. There's also John Robert in there. So, I mean, what a lineup, right? And I think today, from my perspective, is the most interesting lineup to watch just because it's fast action, snap, raise calls, 150,000 check raise on the river, just out of control. So that's, for me, sort of the highlight so far is today's lineup. And tomorrow there's a super high roller tournament going on. I don't know if you guys talked about it. $500,000 buy-in. That's not going to be on Twitch, but I'm going to probably come back and check that out tomorrow. So lots of high stakes action.
How deep are they playing in this game today here?
There's Solomon has 750,000. I think Bobby Baldwin has a 1.2. Everyone else is hanging around the 500,000 mark right now. So a little bit short of creating massive pots, but they're actually playing 300, 600, 1,200 with the 2,400 straddle today. Wow. So it's a little bit bigger.
Oh, boy. Sounds like a huge one. We'll have to check in on that later. Thanks so much, Jamie. Good luck with the rest of the stream, and thanks for joining us tonight.
This has been great, guys. Thanks again, and have a good day.
In case you missed it, the big one for one drop went off this week. 135 players. Terrence ponied up the $111,111, as we just mentioned, to play in the biggest buy-in of the World Series this year. You'll remember last year was the $1 million buy-in. This year's $111,000. It's yet to be seen if they're going to bring it back for $1 million next year. It wasn't a giant success last year, so I'm guessing they might keep it at the 111. And
I guess it's whether they make friends with the Macau guys.
Right. If they make up with if Guy makes up with the Macau guys, we'll see if that one gets off the ground again. If I had to bet right now, Terrence, I'm curious as what you think. I would say it probably isn't going to happen next year.
Yeah, I'd take the no at minus 170 or so. But I'm not good at these things.
A bunch of really interesting stories around this year's big one, not the least of which was Phil Hellmuth taking a chip lead into the final table, melting down, finishing in 6th place. It's one of so many people were sweating Phil. He of course won his 14th bracelet earlier this year, going for the 15th to pull away from Phil Ivey in 10th and others. So when Phil makes the final table, especially at an event like this, it brings a huge amount of interest and people watching this. And he didn't quite live up to the Phil Hellmuth that we all know and love, who does thrive under the pressure. He kind of melted down a bit. Terrence, did you watch any of the final table at all?
I didn't, but I assume he just didn't do well because it wasn't Raz. I think we've gone from Phil the no limit hold'em specialist now to Phil the Raz pro. I think he only wins in games where deuces and threes are good, right?
Yeah, exactly. He played his first big hand. Another guy who made the final table that was fun to watch was Bill Klein, and you'll remember Bill from the cash game, the high-stakes poker cash game that was so successful for so many years. The last season when Norm Macdonald was doing the commentary, Bill Klein was one of the businessmen. I believe he owns the Treasure Island, and he makes his return and plays in the big one for One Drop this year. He played a pot with Phil, and I want to get your take on this, Terrence. Bill, it folds around to Bill in the button. He opens for min raise. Phil calls in the big blind with 8-6 of diamonds.
Standard.
Yeah, absolutely so far. Bill, by the way, has King-6 offsuit. The flop comes King-7, 2 hearts. Phil decides to lead out. And
not quite standard.
Yeah, a bit of a weird lead there. Is Phil going to lead off with a king? I'm not sure, but either way, he leads, and Bill calls.
I actually do think Phil is the kind of guy who does lead with a king here.
Right, he's one of the guys that would do it, right?
He is absolutely one of the guys to do it, which gives him cover for a little bit. So I think it's less bad coming from him than from other people because he'll do stuff like that. He'll lead with a king. He'll lead with a 7. He'll just lead with a variety of stuff for sure. 2 hearts on the flop. Maybe he leads with a heart draw. Bill calls. The turn is the 8 of spades, and remember Phil has 8-6 of diamonds. King 7 8. Turn second pair.
Second pair, which in that spot is pretty big hand. That's a great turn card, obviously.
Yeah, you expect to be floated a lot by ace high and just random overcards to the 7 for sure.
So I wonder now that you mention it, and we'll get to it later in the hand, but how often is he going to get floated there by Bill Klein specifically? I haven't played with Bill. I've watched enough of Bill to know he's got some moves clearly. But, if Dan Coleman floats you on that flop, how much different is it than when Bill Klein does it? The turn was an 8, so Phil bets, and Bill decides to flat again, which is interesting. I guess you probably, because Phil, again, you might be, if you min raise there or click it back, whatever.
You haven't said what Bill has, actually.
I did, actually, right before. King 6 off.
King 6, sorry.
Yeah, it's King 7, 8 on the turn. I wonder what you think of the flat call on the turn by Bill.
Absolutely. I think this is correct to go. I think this is pretty close to one of those way ahead, way behind situations that I think Bart talked about maybe 4 weeks ago when we had him on. You're more than likely way ahead, but when a bunch of money goes in, Phil is not the kind of guy, although we will see a little bit later on with a different hand that sometimes he does get it in with some weaker hands, but generally speaking, Phil needs a big hand to play a big pot. So I am totally. I would also call here.
You like the flat on the turn, all right? Yes. The river is the king, so it's now King 7
now
8 king. Yes, he does have quads on the river. Phil bets a 5th of the pot, and Bill Klein raises. Pretty big. I think he raised him a couple million, 5x'd him basically on the river. Phil tanks and calls. And I wonder
from Northern Europe.
I wonder what you think of the call.
Yeah, it's tough. It's obviously the worst possible river card, in terms of run other than an 8. Because it kind of locks him in, and I actually do really understand the value bet here. I don't have any problem with him value betting for a 5th of the pot. Like we talked about all the floats, the 7 in the hand. He beats a lot of stuff here.
Right.
He does get unlucky to some extent here. Now, as to whether you should call it raise, that's really tough. I mean, that's really like a know your player kind of spot there. So what kind of hands can Bill turn into a bluff, right? And this sort of hand reading is always really, really tricky against amateurs and people who don't have a lot of experience. But it's really hard to conceive of hands that you would float two streets with and then turn into a bluff, right? So, even if you're thinking that you're playing against a pro here, what's out there? Like Queen Jack, maybe? Like, I mean, it's just if it's an ace high and the guy thinks his ace high is good, he's just going to call. If he had a pocket pair that he's calling down with, and he thinks it's good, he's just going to call. It's hard to really conceivably turn a 7 into a bluff. I mean, it's possible that someone might turn a 7 into a bluff, but again, still same situation applies. So, like, I kind of dislike the call only for that reason, just because it's such a weird static run out that it's really hard for Bill to have many hands that he can turn into a bluff. There's, obviously the board is so static you can't have any, there's the heart draw. I mean, I guess he could have had an ace high heart draw that he decided to turn into a bluff, but again, that's kind of the only thing that even a pro might consider turning into a bluff. With the amateur businessman, I kind of just give him credit for it.
It just seems like Bill's line with call, shove, river is a king almost always.
Yeah, like I said, the only real thing I can think of that's kind of plausible is the
ace queen of hearts.
Draw.
Yeah, but is he going to? Give him that hand. Yeah. How often is he going to turn that into a bluff? Like almost never.
I don't think very often.
Yeah.
Especially, I mean,
even if he has the hand, he almost.
Well, I mean,
never.
one point to keep in mind is he cares a lot less about the money than everybody else in the tournament. So maybe somebody, like if you drop you or me into that seat, and we think it's the right play to turn whatever ace 10 of hearts into a bluff, we might still not be able to pull the trigger on it just because we're worried about making a huge play like that for that kind of money.
Well, the other thing is a lot of people remember Bill from High Stakes Poker making a huge bluff on Phil Galfond. When Phil turns the nut straight, the river pairs the board, and Bill had a flush draw, and he goes ahead and bombs the river out of position. So he's certainly capable of making a big play. But I didn't love the call there. Next hand.
A little correction. Bill Klein owned a grout company.
Are you serious?
Yeah, they sold grout to like Home Depot, bathroom grout.
No way.
It was a huge corporation.
Wow.
So he wasn't in the casino business.
He's the grout king.
He's the grout king.
Ah,
that's awesome.
That should be his handle online. Very next hand, it limps around. Sorry, it folds around to Jonathan Duhamel on the button. He limps with the 7-5 of spades. Which interesting play there, limping on the button. Phil Hellmuth limps in the small blind with 10-7 of diamonds. Dan Coleman checks in the big blind with Queen 5 off. The flop.
Was there a weird stack size situation that led to
I mean, there was a lot of weird stacks because they were so shallow at that final table.
The 100K turbo.
That it was a 100K turbo more or less, but. It was interesting to limp. Coleman checks. The flop comes King 7-6 rainbow. Phil checks second pair. Coleman checks his air. Jonathan bets middle pair, and Phil Hellmuth calls. And Coleman folds in the big blind. So the turn is the 3 of hearts. Now it's King 7-6, 3 of hearts on the turn, brings a backdoor flush draw. Phil bets small.
We just talked about this, right? Like he bets in situations where other people just auto check.
Yeah, exactly. He bets small, and Jonathan calls on the button. The river is the 4 of hearts. So now it's King 7-6, 3, 4. 1 card straight, a 5 is a straight. There's a flush out there. The backdoor flush gets there. Phil Hellmuth bets small again, or Phil Hellmuth.
That's a terrible bet.
He bets small with second pair with a 1 card straight and flush out there.
Well, it's a blocking bet, I guess, but I mean,
it's just weird because how often is he going to have a big hand in that spot when he bets turn and then goes ahead and bets real small on the river? It seems like it's such an obvious blocking bet. And Jonathan raises pretty big with his straight, his 1 card straight, and Phil doesn't take long before he calls, which wow. I mean, that, I don't know if he's still on tilt from the hand before with Bill Klein or not, but I can't imagine that's ever a good call there.
It's so weird, right? Like Phil's mannerisms whenever he plays these things is always like his time bank is either like forever or like 3 seconds. Yeah. Like sometimes he just like shoves chip in the pot randomly in spots where like other people like this is like kind of a tough spot. You've got a 4 straight on board. People usually think about this, and then he calls quickly, and then like other times it'll be like this weird thing where it should be like a clear call, and it just like takes forever. Yeah, I mean it's whether we call that initial bet a blocking bet. I mean usually putting aside the fact of whether you think blocking bets are a good idea or not. I know Jonathan Little hates blocking bets, but once you've kind of gotten the information, isn't the next step to fold? I mean, that's why. Yeah, so why you let. It seems like he really just leveled himself into this by making this bet and then just deciding to call this really big raise. And that being said, like Duhamel's in such a good spot here because how often does he actually have a 5, right? Like how often does he limp with a 5 in his distribution and have the action go specifically that way where they check to him and he bets, and then Phil donk bets the turn and he calls. So like he has to have some piece of the board. Any 5 is an open ender on the turn, but the sort of parlay that happens here just makes it a great situation for Duhamel because he really shouldn't show up with that many 5s, and yet he's clearly representing the 5 with a big bet on the river, big raise on the river. So regardless of whether you think he has it in his distribution that often, you kind of ought to give him credit for it pretty often.
Yeah, and normally I would say, wow, tough to make a raise there on the river for Jonathan because he's ever going to get called by worse. Right? I mean, because there's a flush out there. There's a 1-card straight.
Yeah, that's true, too. Yeah.
You think, like, is Phil ever going to call when it turns out he is going to call with worse?
Yeah, and I mean, it's not like he can't have the 8-5 either because it's just because Jonathan didn't raise pre-flop, so Phil's range is kind of uncapped there.
Yeah.
So you're right, actually. It's a very good point. So he just put in this really big value raise. Not really sure how often he gets called by worse, but that's a super interesting hand.
It worked out. We'll ask Jonathan about that hand later. Phil goes from the chip leader to the short stack in 2 quick hands because of how big the blinds were playing, and playing those. Those are 2 pretty big pots as well. Yeah. He gets eliminated shortly thereafter in 6th place and lies on the ground and is not happy. But I mentioned Bill Klein. Fantastic.
Did he really lie on the ground?
I saw a picture of him lying on the ground. I don't know if it was there or for some other reason.
It could have been from several.
Who knows? It was on Twitter. It could have been Photoshopped for all I know. But Bill Klein, I mentioned a fantastic story here. This is a guy who plays for charity, and all the money that he ended up winning in this tournament, he ended up donating to the One Drop Foundation, which yes, it goes out of the poker economy, but it's not much different than if he would have won that money because he's always got that amount in play anytime he's playing. So great story for him to donate that money. The big winner of the tournament was Jonathan Duhamel, who I mentioned earlier. He wins his 2nd bracelet and $4 million for winning that $111 turbo, $111K turbo. Amazing. 2 bracelets, one for $8 million, one for $4 million. His bracelet per $1 is pretty insane, T.
Yeah, that is probably the highest. Other than Dan Coleman, I guess he's got the highest bracelets per $1. You know what I was thinking? It was just a random thought to me as you were going through these numbers. Do you remember Duhamel for his main event fund label? He was sponsored by that refund management tax refund service.
RMS. Yeah.
I just feel like that's like the most appropriate sponsorship for a guy who's banked a $9 million for a tournament and a $4 million tournament, and he's from Canada. Like,
no question. So this hilarious. One, he's Canadian, so he's getting 30% of $4 million, $1.2 million withheld. And I can't imagine he's got $1.2 million in losses to write off against it.
Yeah. So go bet on some sports or something.
Yeah, he's got the free roll for taxes over down there. He could probably work out some arbitrage with some sports bettors or something, I'm sure. So 2 bracelets, $6 million per bracelet. I don't think anybody's got that beat with more than one bracelet for sure. But you mentioned Dan Colman. He was going for his back-to-back win. He, of course, won last year for $17 million, ends up in third. Good story. We'll talk to Jonathan more about that. But in case you missed it, there was some more Brian Hastings drama this week. You weren't here for the show last week. We did talk about the fact that he has admitted to multi-accounting while living in the United States and using a VPN on Pokerstars. To do so, he was using the account Noel Hayes, who is a somewhat prominent Irish player. How he got that account has not been announced or anything, but it seems like he probably bought it or borrowed it or did something to use that, and he played on the account from the U.S. in the high-stakes games. Of course, a lot of people took issue with that because he, of course, on his Stinger account, has played against many of the people that he was playing nosebleed cash against on the Noel Hayes account, so he had reads on people while they did not have reads and understand who this guy was and thought he was somebody completely different. Final table scoop.
And of course, his justification is that he can't play on the Stinger account while he's in the U.S. because if anybody knows that he's in the U.S., that account is going to get shut down because Stinger's clearly associated with Brian Hastings, the person.
Right, and it seems like it's sort of okay within the high-stakes community to, and this isn't me condoning it at all by any stretch, or saying that this is okay, but the high-stakes community seems to be okay with people VPNing from the U.S. as long as they play on their own account.
I'm not sure if that's accurate. I mean, I would say that it certainly would be frowned upon less than just multi-accounting for the sake of multi-accounting. I would say that there are a lot. I would say people are divided. Let's put it that way in the community as to whether, like, let's say if you're just defrauding, Pokerstars / the American government or whoever. Whether I don't think people take as much offense to that as they do multi-accounting because, like, oh, this guy won't play me, or I want to get reason this guy with it. There are clearly two issues at play here. One is the fact that he's VPNing in, and other people have had to relocate to Mexico and Canada to be able to play on Pokerstars. And the other issue is that, sort of as a byproduct of that, people that he's playing don't necessarily know who he is when he is this very successful high stakes player. So I don't think it's quite accurate. I know you're getting at. I don't think it's quite accurate for you to say that people are just fine with VPNing into stars. I haven't talked to enough online pros to know what the consensus is on that.
Fair enough. So James Obst, the Australian player, came out this week and he wrote an article that is up on he did an interview that is up on calvinair.com. And in it, he talked about how disappointed, upset he was about the fact that this was going on. He prefaced it by saying he played online poker underage. And many years ago, he played before he was 18. I don't think that's a whole lot similar to what Brian did, but also against the terms and conditions of Pokerstars that he did play underage. But he came out and wrote a pretty scathing article about did a scathing interview about his views on it. He also talked about Daniel Negreanu. And there was a sort of a little sidebar part where he said he was a little bit disappointed in Daniel and the way he was talking on Twitter and saying things like the fish busted me, the bad player did this, whatever. A little bit nitpicky, I thought. I don't think it's Daniel, of course, is a separate entity of the poker world because he's got so many followers on Twitter, and he's just far and away the biggest star in the poker world. And if he's taking to Twitter and saying, the idiot here busted me with the terrible hand, etc., I'm not sure that's something that should be in the same discussion as what Brian did. But anyway, Brian took to Twitter after reading this and after this came out, and I want to read some of his tweets because they're pretty amazingly.
Sure. So before you do that, I should just briefly interrupt. If people want to see the interview with James Obst, as you said, is on calvinair.com. It is called "A View the Poker World Doesn't Want to Hear." Probably most people have read it already, but just in case they missed that, that's the terms you want to to Google there.
The tweet started from Brian Hastings. This is one. The amount of sheer hypocrisy displayed by people like at James Obst and at DM Bakes David Baker is nauseating. No wonder poker is not a respected industry. Next tweet, hate on me all you want, but hate on Real Kid Poker for promoting the game while never trying to have a real convo with him. What a joke. I love poker, and it's been very good to me over the years, but I can't see myself staying in an industry in which people like them are heroes. So many problems with these tweets.
It kind of breaks the irony meter, right?
It snaps it in half. I mean, first of all, I don't think anybody is, he says that James Obst and David Baker are heroes. On the list of poker players that people would look up to and call heroes, I'm not sure how high up on the list those two guys are. Yeah, so, to put, it's almost like a straw man, right, where Brian is trying to make himself look sympathetic in some way and lifting these guys up to some sort of pedestal that they aren't really on to take a shot at is kind of hilarious. The other one is, the sheer hypocrisy displayed by people like James Obst, and what he's referring to with James, of course, is him playing underage many, many years ago. And David Baker, how he's calling him a hypocrite, is the fact that David didn't come out right away when he knew about Brian Hastings. He waited until Brian was accusing somebody of angle shooting, and he just got sick of it, threw his hands up in the air, and took to Twitter and said, "Are you serious, dude? This is what you're doing, yet you're calling this guy out for a minor angle." So he's saying David should have come out right away with the information.
Yeah, and to some extent, that this is the kind of thing that makes it a little bit murky. Like, he sort of has a point on both of these issues. Now, I'd certainly not want to be, taking a side on this, but like we talked about VPNing. Like, let's remove the multi-accounting stuff and just talk about VPNing. Well, that's a thing that hurts stars. It's a thing that's technically illegal. It's more analogous to the underage playing thing, right? Because that's against the terms of service. That's illegal. It's more construed as quote unquote more victimless, right? Because if all you're doing is VPNing in, then all you're doing is giving yourself the ability to play when you otherwise wouldn't be able to play. You're playing on your account, and that would be the exact same thing as playing underage.
See, right? I would disagree there. I think that playing underage. Remember, he's James Obst is Andy McLeod on PokerStars. Playing underage,
which is hilarious. Like, I remember playing with Andy McLeod like forever ago.
Yeah, right. When you talk about VPNing, there's a lot of people who uprooted their lives and moved out of the country of the U.S. and traveled around the world at great expense to move and be able to play on stars away from their family, their friends, their environment. When you're playing underage online, you're probably I'm going to guess that you're not an experienced poker player if you're 16 or 17. The cross section of people that are playing underage probably aren't your top end players. So I don't know that you cost.
Well, why does it matter? I mean,
I'm just saying, in costing EV type thing, I don't. If you're going to measure dollars lost to a certain group, and if this matters or not, I don't know. But I'm just saying that I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, like a 24-year-old American is probably going to be better at poker than a 17-year-old anything, for sure.
Right, and also the fact that he is, playing from his comfortable environment in Florida. I'm talking about Brian here, while other people are moving abroad to do it at great expense, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, but at the same time, it's sort of, it's sort of like saying. I understand what you're saying. Like, other people have incurred this cost, but a lot of people would also take the point of view that, it's unfair that internet poker has been taken from the United States, and it's an unjust law, and I don't accept this, and I don't feel that I have to uproot my life. But the thing is that, like, if person A moves to Mexico and person B VPNs in. Pretending like he's in Mexico, person B hasn't actually hurt person A in any way. It's just that he kind of has like a more easy path to do that, right? Like, he hasn't actually caused the person that moved to Mexico any harm. It's just that he's sort of getting a shortcut or getting a deal, as opposed to, like, say, you and me, we just get to live in Canada and we get to play poker wherever we feel like, just because we're lucky enough that our government doesn't decide that we can't play internet poker for no particular reason, right?
Yet.
Yeah.
So the next tweet was from Hastings, at Dylan Lind, at James Obbs, at DM Bakes. Talk to me privately if you have a problem with me. Oh, wait, you're all cowards, so that won't happen. Which, again, you're calling people... These are people... David Baker is a whistleblower. I always get upset when people point fingers at whistleblowers. Should he have come out earlier? Maybe, probably. That's a point of discussion. But he had the balls to do it. He didn't sit by and for the entire time and watch you be Brian Hastings be hypocritical about all the things you were calling people out on. He did something about it. Did he do it at the right time? That's debatable, I guess. Probably not. But pointing finger at him and equating what David did to what Brian Hastings did is insane to me. Like, it's just such a logic fail, and that Brian is even taking this tact on Twitter, it makes me wonder, like, what he's thinking at all.
Yeah, he seems to lost his mind. And, my interactions with Brian, they're limited. I've always actually liked him. I've spoken to him briefly. I mean, I wouldn't say I've spent a lot of time with him, but I've always liked him, and my impression of him, for whatever that's worth, has always been that I thought he was, a decent guy. And it is hard to see him continually bury himself by just saying dumb shit over and over, because he's clearly a smart guy. It is important to remember he's very young, and even among internet poker wizards, he's very young. I think he's 24. And a lot of these guys are in their late 20s. Maybe they've matured. I don't think that's an excuse, but you really hope he does come to see the way that he's portraying himself. He's doing himself absolutely no favors by behaving in Twitter this way. He really just needs to kind of own up to it and say, like, look, I effed up. I hurt people. I cost people money. He's made reference to, like, oh, I've separately, made amends to this person, and I'll pay people this. If you think I owe you this, I'll pay you that. And that's not really the way it works. You need some real measure of contrition so people can go, okay, this guy is really legitimately sorry for what he's done, and we don't think he'll do it again. You look at this isn't the first online poker scandal happen. You look at someone like Justin Bonomo, right? We talked about Justin briefly earlier, but Justin Bonomo was one of these guys who was very much vilified for the multi-accounting that he did, which was probably much less offensive in truth, but way back in 2005 or whenever it was. But he's generally a guy who, nobody walks up to Justin at the Rio and says, you're a dirty scumbag, because he's owned it.
Right.
And so I think it would be inappropriate to go up to Justin and say that you're a scumbag, you're a dirtbag for something you did 10 years ago, when he's just said, like, very clearly, like, I screwed up. I was a kid. I screwed up. I did wrong. I did so bad. And I hope Brian kind of comes to that point where he can just have the maturity and the level-headedness to be, to say that, yeah, I did wrong. I cheated people. I screwed up. I won't do it again. I'm going to, you hold yourself and hold himself to a higher standard. Like, I think that someone like Justin has done, and because that's the only way you recover from something like this in terms of your reputation. And it's a shame, because he's having just a fucking amazing World Series. Yeah. I mean, this is a guy who by all accounts should be winning the Player of the Year. He is third, and he's got 2 bracelets, multiple bracelet winner, and it's cast a complete shadow over to the point where people are like, I wonder if he's cheating in live poker too, like, somehow, which I think is pretty unlikely. But yeah, I mean, it's just the fact that people are talking about this. It's got to be brutal for him.
That line, he's got, oh wait, you're all cowards. That won't happen is interesting, because in the thread on 2+2, he posted, if anybody wants to PM me and have a conversation, go right ahead. So I PM'd him and said, hey, Brian, if you want to use the Pokercast as a forum to talk about what happened, we're willing to have you on the show, and would love to talk about it. And he quickly PM'd back that he thought that wouldn't be in his best interest. To call other people, I mean, call it cowards.
Whenever athletes have a big scandal, they get, like, the exclusive 60 Minutes interview.
Yeah, I mean, I think if Brian comes out and says, you know what, guys, and this is exactly all you have to say, I fucked up. I didn't want to leave my house. I did travel to Canada. I got very depressed. I didn't like it. I came home.
Things that he said, yeah.
If I would have VPN'd on Stinger account, because I'm such a high-profile player, I think I would have been outed and I would have been, lost all my money. So I wasn't trying to use an account to, play and disguise that it was me. I was using an account just so I could play, and I VPN'd on this account. I apologize if I played against you. I'm happy to send you back the money that you think I owe you. We can come to some agreement, etc. It won't happen again. He's probably going to lose his account with Stars for life, but that's just the way it goes, or some period, maybe not for life, who knows. But if he does that, Terrence, I think it blows over in not too long. I mean, his reputation will certainly suffer, but I don't think he's going to get anywhere near several magnitudes less than the hate he's getting now.
Agreed. Yeah, it's exactly like you said. Just make a public statement, show that you're contrite, show that you don't feel bad, because your reputation is getting worse with you're making it hard for people to even think that you're a good guy anymore. And like I said, my meetings with him, he seemed friendly, he seemed likable. He's a guy that, I wanted to like and wanted to cheer for, but he's making it hard. And if you're getting someone like me who starts out with a positive impression of a person and you are turning them 180 degrees, then that's bad. And sort of like Ross alluded to, you asked him to come on the show. He doesn't want to come on the show. That's fine. That's fair. Like Ross alluded to, sort of the sit down with Katie Couric style thing. If it doesn't have to be with us, it could be with anybody, whoever he's comfortable with. Right. In the poker media, choose your 20 guys who are out there who could do something like that, or like you said, just turn the webcam on yourself and be like, "This is my public statement on the matter." But it's got to be honest. It's got to be fair. It's got to be. I screwed up. It's not about David Baker says this and James Obbs says this and you guys are all assholes, because you're just deflecting at that point. You're not saying, look at me and I am pointing myself and I did something wrong. You're saying, oh yeah, David Baker's an asshole, James Obbs is an asshole, whatever, and that's irrelevant. I don't think they're assholes, but even if they were the biggest assholes in the world, it's not about them at this point. It's about Brian Hastings.
In case you missed it, you wanted to talk about some of the new decks, the Modiano cards.
Yeah, so speaking of David Baker, of course, one of the people who is not playing the World Series of Poker is Mr. Bakes. Because of the decks, we've talked about this on previous shows. I'm not sure if you covered it last week, but it was good to see that after all the criticism that was levied at the very, very, very poor Modiano cards that were being bent, especially noticeable in the draw events because of the squeezing, that they've replaced some of those with somewhat thicker, somewhat better cards. Not great, but apparently they showed up in the 50K. Saw a number of tweets from the 50K saying that they were much better. I played with them in the 10K limit hold'em. I don't remember if it was day 1 or day 2. Definitely on day 2. Can't remember whether day 1. A little bit better. I asked Jesse Martin, Jesse Martin, I think, was the famous tweet that got retweeted a lot that said basically, I'm standing here on the rail calling out the cards, just FYI.
Yeah.
Before and still nothing was being done. So a modest improvement. Still, it's still hard. It's kind of sad state that just kind of say that the less marked cards are better, because there's definitely still a significant curve and bend to the cards. When I was playing day 2 of the limit hold'em, you can definitely tell, but at least it's not as bad as it was originally. Don't expect better for the main event, because they obviously go through so many decks in the main event that they don't have these newer, thicker cards. But apparently there was a shipment of Modiano cards kind of rushed that were a little bit better. But it would be nice if they just kind of went to chem cards. Everybody knows that chem is the standard for excellent playing cards. If a deck of an investment in a set of chem cards will last you a long time, for all you guys having a home game out there. And they're quite hard to mark or hard to break or deface. But that won't happen because obviously the World Series has a contract with Modiano. There is, as far as I know, no out for, these cards suck, so we're not using them. But they are the exclusive provider to the WSOP.
And there's really no doubt in anybody's mind now, I guess, that the cheating scandal in the Heads Up was a guy looking for marked cards.
Yeah, that's
it's so obvious that the cards are insanely easy to mark.
Right. Yeah, you bring up a great point. Everybody forgot about that, right? Like, remember when that was a big deal? Like, this guy was cheating in Heads of Poker. Isn't it amazing? Isn't like poker amazing? Like, we had a massive, massive scandal, and then we've actually managed to have stories that have eclipsed it when we had like literally criminal level scandal in one of the most prestigious tournaments early in the series. Yeah, I mean, Ross is absolutely right. It's a professional card marking expert would have field day. What's the tweet that was out there a couple of weeks ago? This thing turns amateur card markers into professional card markers and professional card markers into Phil Ivey.
And I worry about the main event because if you say the cards are still not great,
there's no way. I'm not even talking about the good cards, the better cards. They don't have enough of those decks.
Right, the good ones.
So the main event's going to be played with the shit cards,
which is really scary because that's where a guy who's good at marking cards is going to have the biggest edge because he's going to be playing against people with no experience in spotting, in protecting their hand, in understanding that this is what somebody's going to do. If you think back to that scandal you were talking about, Keith Lear covered his hands is completely in his cards, and it was very difficult for the cheater to be able to tell what he had, presumably if he couldn't see it coming off the top of the deck. But the main event is the place where the guys can have the biggest edge.
Yeah, and you could be talking about a guy who's not even very good at poker, so he doesn't show up for a lot of World Series events. You might not be able to hang with the guys in the 5K 6 max sort of thing, but obviously the main event turns a lot of kind of okay players into positive EV players, and I mean somebody with that could easily have a really big edge, and you're going to have people. You have people who play the main event who don't know they're supposed to protect their cards at all, like from the accidentally getting fouled or the dealer mucking them or something like that.
They just leave them in front of them without a cap.
They just leave them in front of them, and the dealer has to go, "Sir, you should put a chip on your cards." Yeah, that's not even going to cut it. I can tell you one thing: at my table, I am going to be an absolute Nazi about asking for new setups if I see some mark. I'm the worst guy, by the way. I have like terrible vision when it comes to close-up stuff like that. I would never be able to see a marked card, but if I start seeing bends in cards, it's going to be set up. And if you actually watch Bakes' interview with, I believe it's Sarah Herrick, but I'm pretty sure it's with Poker News.
Yeah.
He talks. He talks about how he would be asking for setups in the floor, would kind of roll their eyes and being like, "Oh, this annoying fuck! Like, why is he wasting all of our time?" But no, I'm gonna be that guy.
Good. Speaking of events that you're going to play, tomorrow is the World Series of Poker online event, the very first online event. You're going to play that one?
Yeah. After all this going to the Rio, it'll be nice to just chill out at home, fire up the internet. We were just talking about internet poker having to relocate. I don't have to go anywhere. I'm going to play internet poker from right here in Las Vegas, Nevada. I am going to, put some ribs on the barbecue and just it'll be fun. I'm looking forward to playing some.
Well,
play in my underwear, exactly.
Unless there's other people in your house that are going to be playing, like Bill or whoever, Matt is going to play because you're not allowed to.
I thought, and I'm not clear on this, and I've actually, David Williams asked on Twitter just before we went on the air about this, that a lot of people are under the impression that you cannot play from the same IP address unless it's the Rio, which for obvious reasons they'll whitelist that address. But then I saw a different tweet from Bill Reaney that said there are no IP restrictions. And so I'm actually confused as to whether two people in the same household can play. I think, I've tweeted at Bill Reaney to sort of ask for clarification on that to see what's going on. It would be somewhat surprising if they didn't do an IP restriction on anything other than the Rio. But I don't know, whether we don't have the only poker house. There's lots of poker houses around there. I wonder if people are just going to gather around, fire up, and then realize, only one of us gets to play. We all have to. We're all going to Starbucks, different Starbucks at that.
And there's also that thing that if you raise less than a minimum. What was it?
No, it was a bug that apparently is
Yeah.
fixed now.
So they can't open the door for
Yeah,
nothing
let's
now?
hope that's fixed, but we'll find out. I'm sure if there's any bugs in that software, we're going to find out about it during this event. Starting tomorrow. Good luck with that, T. Just wanted to update. This is a super long segment, but I just wanted, and we've got a ton of mailbag to get to in the third segment. We've got 3 interviews in the second segment, so stay tuned for those.
Oh my God, what have you done? Adam?
Yeah, and then we've put mailbag off for a while, so we're just going to dedicate the third segment to mailbag. But before we do that, the World Series of Poker Player of the Year, I just wanted to give a quick update to the folks out there. Mike Gordinsky takes the lead away from Paul Volpe. Finally, somebody passed Paul late in the series now. He has 1,771 points. Volpe 1,631. Brian Hastings in third, 1,564. Stevie 444 Chidwick is in fourth, with 1541. Sean Deeb 1434. Although Sean just final tabled the PLO, so I imagine he's going to move up a little bit. So there's your top 5. And Anthony Zeno also, I believe, was deep. He's had a bunch of final tables, so he might zoom up the list as well. Also, Jamie Gold, for those who wondering what happened to the infamous 2009 champion.
Do we have a top drop yet?
2008. We don't have a top drop. This is the one and only Jamie Gold, who stepped away from tournament poker for a long time. He was I'm not sure what he was doing, but he didn't play a lot of tournaments. He's deep right now.
He was litigating his first share of the
He was. He fought that for a couple of years. The Pokercast was actually used in that court case. His interview on the Pokercast. We're in the transcript, which was funny, but. He's deep in Event 59, a $1,500 no-limit hold'em. He is sitting in fourth with 6 left, 2,155 entrants in that tournament. First is over $500,000. So, Jamie obviously he's kind of a crazy guy, but he seemed like he's a good-hearted dude. I wish nothing but the best for Jamie. I hope he takes that down. It'll be a great story. All right, so we've got our strategy partner for the 2+2 Pokercast is CrushLivePoker.com. This is Bart Hansen's website that teaches you not so much online poker, but he gives a lot of lessons about how to go play live. Of course, live poker is thriving throughout the world right now, and this is all me leading up to the facts so Ross can figure out exactly what this week's strategy segment from Bart Hansen is.
Mm-hmm. It's the strategy segment this week is about a very important poker concept
called.
It's very important.
Okay.
He's giving it this proper introduction that it deserves, Adam. I mean, don't rush the man.
Stay tuned for the very important poker concept that Bart Hansen is going to talk to you about in a second. Also, coming up after the break, we're going to have a whole bunch of interviews. Keep it right here. You're listening to the 2+2 Pokercast.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another 2+2 Strategy Minute brought to you by CrushLivePoker.com. I'm Bart Hansen, and today I want to talk about a no-limit game. I want to talk about 7-card stud high-low. 7-card stud high-low, of course, is a split pot game, and it's a game that's played at the World Series of Poker and played at many events at the World Series of Poker. It's also the E that is in the horse mix. And today I want to talk about value betting on 7th Street. One of the probably most important concepts in stud high-low is that when your board is actually looking to be low and you miss your low, of course you have to qualify for low by having a hand that's 8 or better. If you run into too small pair and you are up against someone with a probable high hand, 7th Street is a mandatory bet when the high hand checks to you at the end, because the high hand is going to always call down with one pair. So I'll give you an example. Say, for example, a guy raises with a king and you call with a 3. And you have like 3, 5, 7, and you catch a 7, and then you catch a brick, you catch another low card, so you have a pair of 7s and 4 to a straight, and on the river you make 2 pair. Let's say you make 7s and 4s. As long as your opponent doesn't have an open pair in their door cards, you need to bet 7th Street because they are always going to check call with a pair of kings. Now, occasionally you're going to value own yourself, and they're going to have kings up or whatever other pair that you that they started with. But you must bet 7th Street because they're always going to call you with worse. Now let's get back to the Pokercast.
6 max zoom 500, 230 big blinds deep. MP opens to 10 and I 3 bet 36 on the button with kings. He 4 bets small to 63 and I 5 bet 143 and flat his $222 6 bet. Pot is 450 with 1,000 behind. He bets 555 on the 10-7-3 rainbow flop, and I think, too bad I'm not capable of folding in these spots as I shove, only to see him turn over ace-10 after calling. I hold for 500 big blind pot.
Team Pro Online's Mikhail Inasai-Shalamov is a Supernova Elite VIP. This is the 2+2 Pokercast, presented by the Pokerstars VIP Club.
Hey, poker players, don't forget to participate in the weekly Pokerstars Invitational for Pokercast listeners. Every Sunday at noon Pacific, 8 p.m. in the UK. Just $1.10 with $500 added to the prize pool each week. Formats vary, but you can always find it in the private tab of the tourney lobby. The guys will announce the password somewhere in this very show. See you at the tables.
Hi guys, it's Mike from ProfessionalPoker.com and the 2+2 store with some great news for our Pokerstars players. You can now use your frequent player points to purchase gift cards available from ProfessionalPoker.com. These same cards will also work at the 2+2 store. The gift cards come in increments of $25 and $50, and you can apply multiple gift cards per order. So now you can get the books, videos, and ebooks from all the major publishers using just your FPPs. So check out the gift card section of the PokerStars FPP store and pick up the poker training material you've had your eye on for a while at the 2+2 store and ProfessionalPoker.com.
Hey guys, this is Bart Hansen for CrushLivePoker.com. Whether you're a recreational player who wants to compete at the tables, or you're a professional and you want to increase your win rate, the material that I've produced at CrushLivePoker.com will make you a better poker player. Act now and you can subscribe for free by using the coupon code TPC11. That's TPC for the Pokercast 11 and get your first month free.
Welcome back to the 2+2 Pokercast, presented by the Pokerstars VIP Club. Lots of guests this week. Just like last week, we've got so many people. They're taking breaks. They're taking time out of their breaks to join us. They're not going to be longer interviews, so we thought we'd put a couple more together rather than have one big sort of feature interview. We're going to have a bunch. The first of them is going to be from a man who was on our show many years ago, and he's fascinating. Everybody loves him in the poker community. It's our old friend Ellie Elezra. And he joins us now. This is the winner of Event 48, the $1,500 7-card stud. He is the one and only Ellie Elezra. Ellie, welcome back to the Pokercast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me again.
It's been a few years. I appreciate you taking a break in the 10K horse right now and spending your break with us. First of all, congrats winning your third bracelet in the event. Where would you say that stud is on a list of your best games?
Well, first of all, stud is an the old school game, and it makes me really proud to be one of those guys, to show them that we still have it. So, yeah, every stud game, I enjoy to play stud. When I play my mixed game with the big boys, I always put the stud and stud 8 and all those games to make sure we still got it.
Yeah. Stud's one of your better games, then.
Yeah, I believe so.
Well, if you put it in that mix, I'm guessing it does. After Alan Cunningham was knocked out third, Ellie, you were head up with Benjamin Laser, who he had you out-chipped $1.7 million to $700,000, I think. The blinds were $25.50K. You had like 12 big bets. What was your mindset at that point? You had a pretty big chip disparity there, but still had a fair amount of chips to work with.
Well, I tell you, I never give up. I know that all what you need on those stages, And he played very good. Ben Laser played excellent, you know. But I knew that one or two hands will make the difference. So what I did basically, you know, in stud usually when you have the high card, you're supposed to raise and steal the blind and the ante. And I let 2 or 3 of those high cards go, and I waited for the right moment. And all what I needed is because 2 hands before I knock Alan Cunningham, you know, and I had like only 340 or 350. It becomes 700, and then we heads up.
Yeah.
I knew that Ben is a good player, you know, and he will not give up easy. So it worked good for me. I mean, all what I can tell you is I got lucky in the right time, you know. I'm not going to take the credit that I outplayed. You know, when I won the WPT, it was the same thing. He had 4-point-some million to my 1.2 million of mine. But this is no limit, so no limit is a different strategy. Right here, I knew that once I win 2 hands, I'm even with him. So.
And you did win 2 hands. I believe you made two straights, one on Fifth Street, and got a ton of action for it. It's interesting you mentioned that you didn't take advantage of spots you might have. Was there something that Ben was doing that maybe you thought he was going to, you know, be a little out of line at some points?
Well, yes, I think that, you know, as I said, he's a good player, but I think that he overplayed the lead, which at some point, you know, like when I raise, he 3-bet me when he have the big card, and I have a big pair in the hole. Mm-hmm. And then one time he showed me aces up when I bluff him in the hand that I have pair of 3s on me, and he showed me aces up and he threw it away. And I think that was the key turnaround. Because the way I play, you know, I sweat my card, and I have the queen jack, you know, queens and jacks. I figure it'll be there when I sweat the paint. Actually, the paint, it wasn't there. So I turn around and bluff him on this end, and the rest, I can see it on his body language that, you know, he's really uncomfortable and he can't give up.
Tell us about your World Series of Poker this year. You've had 6 cashes, I believe. What was your schedule like? Did you play a ton of events, Ellie? Or I know you play the cash games, the big, is it 300, 600, the mixed game. But what's your series been like, and how tough is it to play every day for that long?
Well, I tell you what, I'm playing doing swords. It's about 18 hours a day. Sometimes I go in the morning to Aria, play the 4 in 800, or to Bellagio, play 4 in 8 or 3 in 6. And then straight to the tournament. I like usually to miss. The way I did today, I came at 620, so I missed the first 2 levels. Because I really believe when you get 30,000 and you play 2 in 400, you know, it's not you know, the 2 hours, it's really good to kind of stay away from them. But I play most of the 10K events. I didn't play the heads up, and I didn't play the couple of them that I was in the middle of the, you know, 3rd or 4th day on tournament. Mm-hmm. But I think about 6 or 7 10K events. Then I play those small ones, the 1500. I try to concentrate mostly on mix or stud or the game that I'm playing usually, which is the deuce or no limit deuce. I gave up a little bit on the no limit for 2 reasons. First, there's so many good young kids on the field those days. And second, it's such a big field, and it's not that I'm saying I cannot compete with them, but I feel like I'm a lot, you know, I can match up much better on the mixed game stuff that I do for so long.
Ellie, I wanted to ask you about those mixed games because they added a lot of games, the 16 games. They took out 8 game, they added 10 game, adding some of the lowball games. What is your feeling on that? Do you think adding more games is good for the field? Is it good for you personally? What are your overall thoughts on adding the Badesi and the Badusi and all of that?
I love it. I heard a lot of complaints. I love it because, as I said, when I play my mix game, I play the Badugi and the No Limit Deuce, and I play all the mix, you know. And when I saw that, immediately when I sat down in the game, I realized there's few people very uncomfortable with a couple of the game. I really believe that JRB, Jean Robert, make it that deep and second on the 50K because one of his best games is Badugi. You know, yeah. And he's so good in Badugi when I play with him the mixed game, and it seems like every big pot that he won was the Badugi. He can outplay his opponent, and so from my perspective, I really love it. I mean, if they make it 12 games tomorrow, I would love it. You know, I'm going to play probably this Friday the 18 games, the dealer choice, which is also they add up another 2 games this year. But from a perspective of other players, you know, they complain, but I think that they'll catch up. You know, even the young kids. What I'm really happy with is I see a lot of new faces on the mixed games, and in the past you didn't have a lot of them. Right now the field is about 165 or something for the 10K horse. Last year they have 200, but overall the attending is a little lower, so you can see that there's a lot of people trying to take their chances on the mixed games, and it couldn't make me happier, you know.
Ellie, you always struck me as somebody who actually just loves the game of poker and didn't need to play to, you know, grind out a living or wasn't sitting there with a frown on his face. You were always struck me as somebody who was really happy. And one of the things I noticed in your winner's picture was your wife and your son had joined you for the picture, which I thought was pretty cool. I believe your son just turned 21. How important was that to have him there to see you win your third?
Oh, man, it was so cool. This was the very first time he ever come to a poker game, you know. And you're right, he just got graduated from USC with honor, and for him, he knew Dad is a poker player. A lot of people, when they hear the name Elezra and they ask him, so he said, wow, everybody knows, you know. And when he came for the first time to sweat me in this game and I won it, you know, Nolan Della said, well, where's your son? When they present me the bracelet, they also put the Israeli national anthem, Atikva, and he wanted my son to present it to me. I wish he would tell me that, like, you know, an hour before I'll get my son. He asked me that only, like, 10 minutes before they presented. So, yeah, it was very, very cool for me, you know. They wrote over there I have 2 kids, but I just love poker. I play poker mostly because just love the brain fights, you know.
I mentioned your third bracelet. How important are the bracelet numbers totals for you? I know you play in the mixed games with guys like, you know, Ivy with 10 and all those other guys with tons of bracelets. How important is the number of bracelets that you personally win to you?
Well, I tell you the truth, it's you know, I'm 55, and to catch up with those boys will be so hard. Unless I dedicate myself. You know, if I would have more bet the way I used to have when Chip Reese was alive and, you know, I bet all the field, everybody, I would probably play a lot more. I think in this round I played probably 18 tournaments or so, maybe 19, I don't know. And back then, you know, we have a lot of bets. This time there's not a lot of bets, so I don't think I'll ever catch it. Each bracelet got his own, you know, very special. Mm-hmm. And like, I don't travel anymore, for example, to go to win titles like the WPT and stuff like that. I'm just staying around town and playing those. So every year my family knows World Series of Poker is around the corner. I'm going to be out for the whole month. Don't talk to me. Don't bother me. I'm playing 18 to 20 hours a day. And that's it, you know.
I don't know if you know or not, but you're famous. You've got an NVG, News, Views, and Gossip thread at 2+2 about you. Somebody found that your house was on the market for sale and posted the video. I believe it was a video or pictures of your house for sale. You looking to get out of Las Vegas?
No. I'm just looking. It's 10,000 square foot house with 7-8 bedrooms with a lot of bathrooms, and now I got only the 14-year-old little girl that I have, and Ryan, which is the 15. I don't need such a huge home. So we just decided to die. No, I love Vegas. I'm going to die in Vegas, not in Jerusalem, you know. Probably in the poker table, you know. I love the poker so much. But, I mean, I'm not going to move from Vegas. No, I'm just going to downsize to 5,000 square foot.
That's just 5,000. That's all. Ellie, people always speculate. He's a businessman first, poker player second, and then some people have said that you're involved with the tourism industry in Vegas, with stores and different things. Can you tell us what the business end of Ellie Elezra is all about?
Yeah, you know, as I said, I'm a first of all family man, like what you said, and then businessman, then poker player. But I have like 27 stores on Las Vegas Boulevard. It's a retail stores, you know, for tourists. a couple of medical buildings for real estate. And with the stores, we have about 200 employees. Everything run by my sister. She run it perfectly. And the rest of it, my family also involved in my business. So, I mean, that's it. It's a small, in some way, it's a small business compared to some of those guys that's playing right now. The high roller in Aria.
Yeah.
The owner of Treasure Island and Klein and those guys. But, it's a business that can keep me in poker for the rest of my life, even though even I can be running bad sometimes.
Now, Las Vegas going through a big change. There's, we talked about Macau the last few years and all the. Give us an idea. You've got your pulse on the what's going on in the economy in Las Vegas. Is everything all right there?
Yeah, I mean, it went down for a while. I mean, you can see that when I talked to you guys a few years back, I was playing 4 and 8,000, 3 and 6,000. The small game was 2 and 4,000. Now, in the limit game, like what I said, 7 to 10 game. Now I'm playing the 4 and 800, 3 and 600. Sometimes we jump to 816. And when the tournament is here, they're playing 1 and 2,000, maybe sometimes 15 and 3. So you can tell by the amount of money that people have that the games went so much down, But Vegas is waking up a little bit. It was really crushing. The housing market went down completely. The housing market woke up, but the commercial kind of still, talking about Macau and stuff. I went to Macau. Macau is mostly the no-limit players. I mean, if I would be young and I would know, I don't have family, I would probably fly over there because there's so many good games. I saw a lot of Europeans playing the no-limit games with those Chinese and stuff. But telling you that Vegas is suffering, I don't think, as long as those big hotels will still need to stay here, they'll do a good marketing, that they'll keep bringing a lot of people to Vegas.
Fair enough. Thanks so much, Ellie. Really appreciate your taking your whole break and on the 10K horse and spending some time with us. Go win another one.
All right, my friend. Appreciate it, you guys. Thanks a lot.
Our next guest is the 2015 High Roller for One Drop champion, not to mention some other tournament, the 2010 main event. There's something happened there. Good Canadian kid, Jonathan Duhamel. Jonathan, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Adam.
Let's get right to the question everybody's got on their mind. Jonathan, what do you think of the Habs trading Braden Press today for Zach Kassian?
Well, you know what? I was pretty excited when I heard it at first because, I don't know, Brandon Press is such a big part of the team, but we got a good guy in exchange. Kassian, I think it's going to be good. He's younger. He can score goals and everything, so I think we're going to like him in Montreal. So I guess that if Marc Bergevin did that trade, it's for a good reason.
He did.
That's the confidence Montreal fans actually. You would never hear that out of like Vancouver.
Vancouver fans would be peeing. They would be
or
upset.
Toronto fans. It's just like he's like, yeah, if the GM thinks it's a good idea, I guess it's a good idea.
Well, I mean, you got to trust the guy. I mean, the guy's there for a reason. So if he thinks it's a good, if he thinks it's a good decision, I mean, why not? Let's go with it.
Speaking of the NHL, Jonathan, the awards were in Vegas last week. Did you manage to work in a little hangout with Carey Price?
No, actually, I did not because I was playing way too much poker. So a couple of friends of mine went to the awards. But I did not. I was pretty sad about it too, especially because Carey won everything. But
he did.
Yeah, no, it's good though. I mean, he deserved it. So we're all happy for him. That's for sure.
I want to get to the one drop stuff here in a sec, but I'll quickly want to ask you about a guy who won his second bracelet earlier this year at the World Series. Andre Boyer won his second event. He is the grandfather of French Canadian poker, I'm led to understand.
Yeah, well, he's been around for a while. He's been playing poker forever, and at first I remember when I started playing at like 15 or 16 years old, he was a big deal back then. He was the one playing all the tournaments, staying in Vegas and stuff like that. So we kind of grew up, wanting to do as good as he was doing in the poker world. And so for a lot of the younger guys, he was like the kind of the guy we were looking up to. He's done some pretty big things in Quebec for the poker scene also. Ran a bunch of kind of free roll tournaments so people would get to know the game a little more. So I'm happy for the guy. I think he deserves it. I was happy to tell him to congratulate him. And, really happy now with 2 French-Canadian with 2 bracelets. That's pretty good.
It is very good. So going into the one drop this year, you had 4 min cashes. We're late in the series now. I'm guessing you weren't too happy with a lot of your results. Give us your take on how sort of the first part of the series went for you.
Yeah, well, I had 4 cashes in maybe 22 tournaments or something like that. So if you look at it that way, it was all right. It was decent. But if you look at it in a way that I had no final tables at all at that point, then it was pretty bad. Money wise or just final table wise, and had any great scores at all. So I really was hoping to make a good one. And in the one drop, knowing that the buy-in was pretty big, the prize pool was pretty big, and it was for one drop too. I knew that a lot of people were watching that tournament or were waiting for that tournament. So it was good overall. It was really nice.
You mentioned the One Drop charity. Of course, French-Canadian Guy Laliberté, your friend, this is his signature charity. This is in Africa, money going to provide drinking water for many communities over there. I don't believe Guy was in town, but still the charity was front and center there.
Yes, it was pretty sad to miss it. I actually talked to him. He was supposed to make it, but he had some business to do. He was in Ibiza at that time, and so he was stuck with some businesses. He really was sad about it, and even more happier that French-Canadian won it, because he would have won it for sure. He wished he would have been there, but he was really happy with the tournament, how many people played. And that the one drop did well. They raised a lot of money. So all the projects are going to go forward. They're going to go forward with it. So that's all pretty good. And he was really happy with the result.
Is there any business done in Ibiza? Come on.
There's always business done everywhere, I believe. So he's a very, very good businessman. I think we all know that. So I think that whatever he touches is going to turn into gold. So we'll see what he's doing, but I think it's some good stuff over there.
Indeed. I watched this stream of the final table, Jonathan. When I was watching, you were fairly short, but the blinds at that time were pretty big. I don't think anybody had more than, I want to say, 40 big blinds at the time. You stole a couple pots or picked up the blinds and antes, and next thing you know, you were sort of middle of the pack in the chips at the final table, and then you played a big pot with Phil Hellmuth, and I want to get your take on it. Phil kind of called off with a one card straight out there. He called on the river with second pair no kicker when you had a straight. I was a bit surprised that Phil called in that spot. Were you as well?
I was surprised too, but I think we have a big history, both of us. We played quite a lot over the last few years, and I'm a pretty aggressive player. He might think I'm a little more aggressive than what I actually am. But on that hand, what happened is I actually c-bet the flop, if I remember well, and then he called. It was a pretty small bet, and then the turn went check. And so I made run around straight on the river, and then he bets really, really small. So I knew that at that point it was just 10 value betting. Really big raise, trying to make it look like if I was bluffing, which probably I would never done so in that spot as a bluff, because I really felt like he would call me pretty often because he doesn't believe me most of the time when we play together. So that's why I made the raise pretty big, almost knowing that he would call. I thought he had a better hand actually, so I was pretty surprised that he called with second pair there at that point. So he just put me on an absolute complete bluff, and that's what happened.
So, Jonathan, you're playing for really big money at this point. Not the biggest money you've ever played for, as we kind of talked about. But do you have people watching the stream and helping you and sort of feeding you information? Obviously this was a big hand, but I always think that if it were me at a really big final table like this, I would have a whole team of guys, taking notes and stuff like that.
Yeah, I did, and I was really lucky to have such a big crowd with me on the rail. Mike Lee was doing a tremendous job watching the stream, taking notes with Marc-Étienne McLaughlin, Lawrence Grondin. A lot of people were really helping me out watching the stream. And then every 10 or 15 minutes, I would go see them, and they would give me hints about, important stuff that I might know, that I might need, or stuff like that. So it really helped me out at the end. I think it was a big advantage that big information that I could use to my advantage. So really, again, I have to thank them a lot, because a lot of that that win deserves, like it's coming from them. So yeah, it was a big thing. It was a big factor, I think.
Jonathan, how do you get that information? Do you, when you fold a hand, are you always kind of getting up, walking back to your rail and saying, okay, were there any hands that we got back? And since I, last been here, I mean, how often are you getting updated with that stuff?
I mean, I would go maybe every 10 or 15 minutes, but I would just look at them pretty often. If sometimes they were just telling me to go see them because something important just happened to show on the stream and they wanted to tell me as soon as possible. But otherwise, like maybe once every 15 minutes, 20 minutes, when I felt like there was a big hand developing on the table, then I would have like a minute break or something that I was not involved in a hand. I would just go up and go see them and talk to them.
To get a sense on if everybody's doing taking full advantage of that, or are there some people there, maybe Phil or somebody else, that doesn't have sort of that support system and are just kind of, I'm not going to find out.
I guess that Bill Klein, who finished second, didn't have that info. I'm not sure about the other guys. I would think that Phil would do it. I hope he is, because the information is out there. So when you play for that big amount of money, and there's information available to you, you have to get it. You have to find a way to get it. It might be some people at home that are watching that are just texting you also or stuff like that, but you really need to take advantage of that, because otherwise, the other players are going to do it, and then they're going to have a big edge on you.
One of the other interesting dynamics of the final table, Jonathan, was Dan Colman, who's trying to win back-to-back one-drops, of course, taking it down last year for $17 million, but also sitting with Phil Hellmuth, who he's talked a lot of shit about in the past, and there was a lot of people online saying, wow, if those two get head up, maybe fireworks will fly. Did you notice any tension at all there?
Well, I think there's always going to be tension if Phil Hellmuth is playing on the same table as you. But besides that, I thought that for the most part it was, I don't know, I think it was kind of jokes or something. We were just kind of joking around, trying to needle the other guys. But I think it's part of the game. Maybe Dan was just trying to get Phil Hellmuth to tilt at some point, so he would play worse or something like that. But I don't think it was anything serious. Same as with me, Phil said on the stream that he would just declare war with me for the rest of my life. And I just thought it was pretty funny. I just thought it was just pretty emotional at that point that he had lost a big pot. So I think it's just part of the game, and it's just all fun and games.
I would love to have Phil Hellmuth declare war on me. I think that could only be good things.
How much EV do you pick up when Phil Hellmuth decides to declare war on you? You got head up, Jonathan, with Bill Klein, which was a fantastic story for this event. I'm sure you loved it too. This man plays poker for charity. He has large amounts of money, doesn't need this. He's playing for the competition. He was on High Stakes Poker before and played for any money he won or lost, the total amount he was giving to charity. This one, he decided he was going to donate all his prize money to charity, which, again, is close to Jonathan. You're quite happy about that, I'm sure, that it goes to one drop. But what did you make of Bill's game? You got head up. Of course, you're going to always want head up against the casual player, maybe the rich businessman type. What did you make of his game, Jonathan?
Well, of course, I was happy to get heads up, with him instead of Dan. But I think he played pretty good, to be honest. Especially when we got down to 3 or 4 handed, I think he played really solid. When we got heads up, I was trying to wait for him to kind of do a mistake. Obviously, I got more experience playing than him, but I thought he played really well, and he's such a gentleman too, a really nice guy to talk to be around. So we shared a couple of stories and stuff, and really what he's doing with charity, I think it's amazing. And it was fun. I think it was refreshing to see a guy like that on such a big final table, to be honest, and to see that he took second. It's a really great score if you think about it, looking back. But yeah, he played pretty well. I was surprised at some points, made some big raise, some check raises on the river that I kind of didn't expect to see coming. So he played good. I think he played good.
Also, when you get head up with a billionaire or super rich guy, you're never going to be able to make a deal. I guess that sort of goes out the window when you're playing a freeze out for $1.5 million or whatever, but there's no discussion of a deal, of course.
No, and I don't think they would have, no matter what happened. I think we're just happy to play it anyways. We're all going to make money at that point, 2.5 or 4. I know it's a big difference, but at the end we're all going to make some we're all going to make some money. So I just make it real, play for real, and that's what happened.
And you end up being the bad guy because $1.5 million money goes to you instead of the charity.
Oh yeah,
I know. I apologize for that.
You paid a lot with the $111,000 for sure. So thanks so much, Jonathan. I know you got to get back to the 10K horse. Really appreciate your time, and hope you pick up a little PokerCast run good and go deep in that event.
Okay, well, thanks a lot, guys. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
That was a lot of fun with Jonathan. Let's bring in our old friend Scott Vener now. Scott, welcome back to the PokerCast. It's been, about 5 years or so since we had you on the show.
Yeah, you guys only like me for, my entourage.
Yeah, that's right.
Or I can't win. I can't figure out what's going on.
One of those for sure. I thought we'd bring you on the show this week because I was waiting forever for you to have a result that we could talk about.
Perfect.
You went deep into 5K Turbo event at the World Series of Poker recently, and was watching that with great interest. A heck of a run. Your first final table of the World Series. Give us an idea of what that was like.
It was really fun. I mean, to be honest, it was like one of those experiences where you were, you're just on the table. You're not really thinking about what it means or how cool it is. I think, I guess it wasn't my first final table because I actually final tabled the 25K Turbo last year to get into one drop and bubbled it.
The satellite.
That actually hurt a lot.
I guess. That's Sean Deeb and Gus chopped that one?
No, it was Connor and what's his name? Eric Lindgren both got the 2 seats. And JC Tran got the 250 cash, and me and Jason Kuhn bubbled. And it was actually kind of a bummer because Jason and I are friends, and we were second and third in chips with 5 people left.
Oh man!
And both of us didn't make it.
You didn't suffer what Connor's fate was, so there's a bit of it.
Well, Connor and I actually were first and second in chips. He was first, and we got it all in pre with Jacks versus Ace King, and I didn't get there. And then I think I'm the one who wished that on him. So.
Oh no!
No, I'm just kidding.
Were you going to play the $1 million buy-in if you won it?
Oh, of course.
Wow, that would have been ridiculous, man.
It's hard to sell $1 million of Lammers.
Indeed, yeah.
It's hard to sell $1 million of a player who's not a professional.
No question. What's your schedule like this year? You're a busy guy away from poker. We mentioned it last time we had you on the show. Music supervisor for Entourage and the HBO series right now called Ballers that you're doing the music for. The Entourage movie, of course, just came out. Incredibly busy summer for you, I'm guessing.
Yeah. Well, most of that work, actually all that work is done already, so now it's just I kind of timed everything to carve out the poker time this summer.
Gotcha.
So I didn't take on any new jobs in between then, but I'll be working on a couple things. I got my new radio show, which is going to be on Beats One, which is Apple's new music service. Me and Pharrell are hosting a 2-hour show every other Sunday night, where it's just me and him talking about music with guests.
Wow.
And maybe we'll talk a little poker on that.
You want to get Pharrell playing head up for some cash for sure, I would think. Did you play a lot of tournaments this World Series? Were you playing cash? What's the schedule been like?
I've played 6 or 7 events this year. I actually had to go back. I was going to play more, but I had to go back and record the radio show because we pre-recorded 2 of the episodes already. And so I had to come back, and I missed a couple of. I missed actually. What was it? The Millionaire Maker, and what was the first big one that everyone complained first place wasn't enough?
The Colossus.
The Colossus.
The Colossus. Yeah, I had to miss that one also. Yeah. But those. I've played. Enough. Like 6. I think it was 2 5Ks I played and a 3K and a couple 1500s in one case.
Bunch of cash or?
I play cash, but I don't play cash very big. I just play like 5-10 or 10-20.
Gotcha.
So you've played 6 events, Scott, and I was looking over your Twitter and I saw an oblique reference to poker, but you're obviously most of the people who follow you are probably more from your industry as opposed from the poker industry. But how about giving us a little bit of advertising? You could say I'm running deep in this WSOP tournament. It's awesome. I would have thought maybe you could use some of your notoriety to shed some light on this game we all love.
I think I do a lot of that, actually. I think if you look at my Instagram, all I do is post poker stuff.
So that's a mistake. I looked at the wrong social network.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of my friends are getting jealous of how much fun I was having instead of working, so I had to slow down a little bit on it. But, when stuff is happening in poker or people are final tabling, I'm always on there talking with the other poker guys because a lot of my really close friends are poker players.
What's your access, Scott, to the Hollywood games? Are you playing in a lot of those things, or not really?
I mean, I probably could if I wanted to. They just play the games that my friends play in are, people buying anywhere from like $50,000 to $200,000, and I'm not playing in those games.
Those are pretty crazy. Molly's game is. I don't know if you read that book. Molly, I can't remember her last name. She's the one who organized that game with Leo and all the other things. It's now being made into a movie, I believe. Have you heard about that?
I think I read, in the Daily News, that, she was talking about doing a movie based on her life. I don't know much about it from there.
Yeah.
Actually, I think she approached one of the writers from Entourage to help her write it, but I'm not sure that he actually did it. But I think that was before it came out. I didn't know that it came out.
The book, yeah, not the movie, for sure, yeah. You mentioned Entourage. I'm a giant fan, of course. We talked about it last time you were on the show. I just saw the movie, as a lot of people have. I watched the credits. I wanted to get the music breakdown, so I was the last idiot standing in the theater 15 minutes after it finished so we could get to the music. But I also noticed you had a cameo in it as it was scrolling down, but I missed you. Where were you in the movie?
I did have I was standing next to Pharrell.
Oh, were you? Oh, at the outdoor screening, was it?
Yeah. And it was kind of a bummer because they actually cut my line out. I had one line in there.
What was the line?
The line was, "Don't worry, we'll take care of these fucking guys," or something like that. Because basically Vince was trying to pin all the attention on Pharrell when he was just walking in to have a seat.
Right.
It was like the storyline of it, but I guess I didn't deliver my line well.
How much fun was that filming, doing the music for? This is a show that was a big part of your life for many years, and back a couple of years later with this movie, getting the band back together, so to speak?
Yeah, I mean, I actually prefer the TV version of it because it when the movies start filming and then you have to lock the movie so much further away from the release date because they're not sure when the release dates are. Usually they're just kind of temporary release dates. And then, part of what I think we built on the TV show was having a reputation for using music that was kind of brand new and cutting edge, and we were like the first ones to actually play the songs. It was harder to do that because some of the newer songs that I would get by the time the movie came out would already be sort of popular, through other sort of forms of mainstream distribution like radio or television or whatever, and it wouldn't feel as special because you would already know those songs. So it actually made me kind of go and dig a little bit more into more classic music that, you could reintroduce today and it would still be a good song, as opposed to trying to find the really obscure new stuff.
Yeah. Some of the songs, speaking of that, the old classic ones, I'd love to see. The Violent Femmes were in there. Tom Morello had a song. And the ending song, Mace, you snuck in there, which I thought was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, and we actually had, I don't know if you watched all the way to the end, but it was, we had Tom Petty, original song from Tom Petty that no one's ever heard before, that when he made the album Wildflowers, he was supposed to be a double album. So it was actually made during that era, and he has like 12 songs that he's going to release as an album in September or December this year.
Oh, cool.
And we were over at Rick Rubin's house, and he was like working on a song for us that we were going to try and put in the movie. It didn't end up working out, but he was while we were waiting for his engineer to set something up, he was like, "Hey, you guys want to hear some Tom Petty from the 90s?" And he played it for us, and every song was amazing, and it sounded like when Tom was in his zone making those amazing hits that he did back then. And we just went to his manager, and I asked his manager if there's any way we could use one of the songs. At first they were a little resistant, and then we kind of talked our way into letting him use it.
That's awesome. What's the process when you go ahead and you have a movie in front of you? You need to put a soundtrack together for it. Just can you walk us through a little bit of behind the scenes on what you go through watching a scene to try and pick out a tune for?
I would say it's not the same in every situation, but for me, like what we try to do with the editor is I'll build him a library of songs I like. I'll send it to him early on before he starts editing, because a lot of editors like to edit with music. They're not going to just put picture together. And he'll take the songs and he'll sort of make his version with the director, like a first cut. And then they'll bring me in sort of after, and I'll be like, okay, I see you guys are trying to go with this. Let's do this. And then I kind of like pitch different ideas in that. Actually, if you remember the Tame Impala song that was used, that was a song that I probably wouldn't have put in the movie because, I kind of feel like it's a little bit of an older Tame Impala song. Like, it would have been a lot cooler to use a newer one. But the way the editor cut it to picture, and it is a great song, it just worked so perfectly that there was no way to top it. So we kept it in there, and as people left the theaters, that was like one of their favorite ones. So like you never really know, there is no like singular process of how it gets done. It's just sometimes the editor will have a good idea, or I'll have a good idea, or someone watching the dailies with the director may say, "Hey, try this song," and then it's sort of like a competitive environment for me because I'm sitting there like trying to top all these different things that they've put in there, to make sure that that Scott Vener's on the movie.
One other quick question I want to ask. I know Ross has a music question as well, and I don't know if you can answer this, but I'm just curious, and if you can't, no problem. Can you give us an idea what it costs to have a song like, let's say, I know you have Eminence Front from The Who in that movie. Is it per the box office, or is it a flat fee? How does it end up working there?
Well, definitely can't tell you how much it costs, but and also it varies, from a business point of view, it varies different movies. Like if you're this particular budget, then they'll charge you this top of the range for the biggest artist, and if you're $100 million plus movie, you can expect to pay the most that anybody's paid for the movie. They kind of go like that, but also at the same time, a lot of movies that are in those smaller ranges, their requests to use songs just get ignored, because imagine being on the other end of the Who's publishing, and you're getting these requests every single day from all these different movies, and you're just going to pick up the fax machine requests from the ones that are the highest amount and sort through those and see if they're right for your actual copyright, as opposed to saying yes to everything and diluting the brand.
Right. So it goes on your budget, the budget of the movie kind of thing?
So every single movie, like let's say it's a $100 million movie, will have X amount of dollars for the music budget.
I see. And you figure out where it gets used.
And as the person who owns the songs, they sort of will gauge what the range that you would likely pay based on the budget of the movie, because they know what percentage usually is allocated towards music.
I see.
Scott, so we're from Vancouver, and we've got to represent our Vancouver talent. I know Pharrell is aware But how familiar are you with Nardwar's work?
I love him.
Nardwar's fantastic. I just watched an interview with Chuck D that he did, and he's all up in Chuck's face nonstop for like 15 minutes. Chuck just handles it like a pro. It's hilarious.
I gotta watch that. I mean, one of my favorite ones with him is when he goes backstage, and it's like the early stages of his career, and he's interviewing Kurt Cobain and Courtney, and they're eating pizza with the band in the back.
Yeah. I actually met Nardwar at UBC, and he told a story about how he got in close with Courtney Love and managed to get backstage at that show. I wish I had a Nardwar-style question for you, but I don't.
Whatever.
I don't know anything about your family or anything. But looking at your Twitter, I know I can tell you're a fan of West Coast hip hop. Is there any rappers I should be looking out for?
Well, actually, a kid who just dropped his album today is Vince Staples.
Oh, yeah.
Super impressed with his album, and this song called North North. But I would tune into my radio show, and you'll be able to hear all of it.
Nice. When are we going to hear that show? Where do we go for it?
It'll be this Sunday at noon on Beats One, which is, if you updated your iPhone, you'll be able to get the new Apple Music app, which will then take you to a tab called Radio, and it's just like a radio station. Like if you had Sirius on your phone and you were listening to Sirius Radio, you could just open up the app and listen to Beats One, and all Beats One is going to be one single channel. Zane Lowe and Ebro and this other girl from the UK, Julie, who are all three hosts. It's one in London, one in New York, and one in LA. And it is playing in 102 countries. And it's going to be amazing radio. Like, there's some amazing content that's going to be on. Elton John's going to have his own channel. Josh Homme had a show on tonight. St. Vincent does mixtapes based on conversations she has with fans.
Wow.
and puts them on, which is really cool. I heard her show the other night. A-Track has his own show. There's all kinds of shows that are going to be on there that I think people are going to really appreciate.
Awesome. Beats One update. Don't wait forever to update your operating system. I know I just got the notification myself on my phone, so I'll make sure to update that. And check out Beats One. Scott, thanks so much. Great run. And you're playing the main event, are you?
I am playing the main event.
Let's go on a deep run there. We'll
get
switch it.
Pokercast run good now.
Yeah, you got the run good. The karma is coming your way, sir. Thanks so much for joining us.
All right, cool. No problem.
That was interesting. Get a little insight into how songs are picked and paid for movies. Thanks to Scott Vener again for joining us.
I got a little nervous after I realized how kind of big time he is.
He's a big shot. Yeah. You're mixing with the Hollywood elite there.
Yeah, he's definitely friends with a lot of people that I idolize or follow.
And you're like, who's this guy? Earlier when I was saying we're going to have Scott on the show. Yeah, I mean, no. I mean, obviously it's nice to have Scott join us, and really appreciate his insight indeed. All right, so well, that's a bunch of interviews. We are also going to come back with a special guest who's going to join us quickly for the first part of the third segment. We're going to get to some viewer mail. I'm so Lettermanized in my life. We're going to get to some listener mail, and we've had that's been a backlog for a few weeks. We haven't been able to get to it. This has been a long show. Excuse me for tripping over my words. It's like midnight. We've been trying to patch this thing together and get everything done, and you got a long night ahead of you, I know, to produce this one. I feel sorry for you.
I'll be fine.
But we're going to be back after the break. We're also going to head out to the Isle of Man to talk to Steve Day at the Pokerstars. You're listening to the 2+2 Pokercast presented by the Pokerstars VIP Club. More right after this.
Hey everyone, this is Bart Hanson from CrushLivePoker.com. As the main event approaches, we are doing a brand new promotion from CrushLivePoker.com. If you have never signed up for an account over at CrushLivePoker.com, of course you can do that for free by just heading over to the website, and you are eligible for a drawing that will get you a free 5% of my main event. So again, if you are brand new to the site, you can head over to CrushLivePoker.com, sign up for free, and you are automatically eligible for our 5% free roll into my main event package.
Under the Gun opens to 3x 200 big blinds deep. I defend my big blind with Queen Jack off with no spades. The flop comes Ace King 10 Rainbow with one spade, and it's a flop that favors the opener's range more than mine, and it's hard for me to check raise any semi-bluff, so I check call his c-bet through deception and to protect my range. The turn is an 8, putting a flush draw out there, and this time I check raise to set it up for a pot-sized river shove. The river is the worst card in the deck, another ace, and I check with the intention of holding to a shove, but he elects not to turn 10-8 into a bluff, even though it's a great candidate with the full house blockers, and I win the pot.
Team Pro Online's Mickey Memento Mori Peterson is a Supernova VIP. This is the 2+2 Pokercast, presented by the Pokerstars VIP Club.
Hi guys, it's Mike from ProfessionalPoker.com and the 2+2 store with some great news for our Pokerstars players. You can now use your frequent player points to purchase gift cards available from ProfessionalPoker.com. These same cards will also work at the 2+2 store. The gift cards come in increments of $25 and $50, and you can apply multiple gift cards per order. Now you can get the books, videos, and ebooks from all the major publishers using just your FPPs. So check out the gift card section of the PokerStars FPP store and pick up the poker training material you've had your eye on for a while at the 2+2 store and ProfessionalPoker.com.
Hey folks, don't forget to follow the Pokercast crew on Twitter. Adam is at PokercastAdam, and he'll keep you up to date on things like upcoming guests, listener contests, and all the latest bacon-related food innovations. Follow Ross at PokercastRoss, and you'll discover new hip-hop bands and learn how to not play Microstakes No Limit. Also, give us a like on Facebook, where we post lots of photos and other nonsense.
As a kid, all I wanted was the killer man. Be like my daddy friends, hopping out that minivan. Chrome 38, spinning like a ceiling fan. Crying on my mama phone, swaying. He a different man, talking to me monotone. Hardly ever coming home. Knew he was the villain, never been a fan of Superman. Beating on my mama in the kitchen, screaming, bitch, you better listen when I speak my mind. Used to think he was unbreakable, he did fair time, but made sure nigga play was full and not shine. When walking in the first day of school, new J's.
Welcome back to the 2+2 Pokercast, presented by the PokerStars VIP Club.
So, guys, we have a special guest this week here in the makeshift studios of the PokerCast. One of the longest-time listeners to our show, That Pope, is in town with his wife and his daughter. They're visiting Vancouver. We went out for dinner the other night. That was a lot of fun. And come into studio. Appreciate you stopping in.
Thank you. It's nice to get to see where all the shows that I spend many hours a week listening to happen.
And you can be first for this week.
Can you send me a text when Ross is going to post it so I can be?
You can jump in. It's been a long time.
Yeah.
You're like 7 shows behind all the time. I always see one of the shows from a month and a half ago get bumped, and I see it's That Pope, and I just go, oh, this guy's so far behind.
Yeah, I try to give nice constructive criticism, but I can't do that because you guys already forgot what you said a month and a half ago.
I forgot what I said an hour ago. Never mind a month and a half ago, but appreciate it. One of the things you're known for, and I want to get your story on this, because a lot of people who maybe have started listening to the show recently, is the eBay story. And this is what you're sort of 2+2 famous for. Give us the breakdown of what exactly happened there.
So at the time I was playing 15, 20 hours a week on Full Tilt, Limit Hold'em, and I guess one guy just somehow followed me and found my username on eBay and complained about some random hand I played against him, saying that I bet Queen into Trump, or King into Trump Queen, and I just posted it because I thought it was funny that I got this on eBay, and all of a sudden basically a meme thread started out of it, and I tried to find the exact hand history, and people said, "Shut up, that's not funny. We want the pictures." So I just let it live its life, and it was great.
It's fantastic that a guy followed you to eBay to send the message. I mean, that's stalking you.
Yep, and one of the greatest things was Pokerstars actually did a pop-up on my client and said the same thing. And so one of the mods at Pokerstars went through and did that, and that was pretty cool as well.
Oh, nice. You're in Vancouver. You've done some stuff. Give us your take on the big city.
Yep, I've heard good things about it, and first time up here, and I love it. We've gone to the beach a couple times, gone to Stanley Park, Granville Island, ate a lot of good food, made sure we got some seafood. I went out to that great Indian restaurant with Adam and Ross, and yeah, it's just been a lot of fun. I'm coming from Arizona. I was looking forward to the cool weather up here. Summertime's the time to go take vacation up north, and it's been pretty hot up here. It's actually a lot more humid, and I'm actually looking forward to getting back to the 110-degree heat in Arizona.
Because it's dry.
Yep.
You mentioned you're a limit poker player, much like Terrence and myself started out with. Give us an idea how much you play. What's your playing schedule these days?
Ever since my daughter was born about a year and a half ago, I've been playing maybe once, twice a month. Anywhere from 816 to 2040 is my main game. Casino Arizona is the main poker room. I play a little at Gila River as well, and no online. I did the Bovada thing for a few months, but haven't been on there since probably January or February.
Haven't been playing on the Noel Hayes account recently?
No.
So it's not you. There's lots of poker at Casino Arizona. People don't know who haven't been to Phoenix to get to that casino, but that's a big room, and it seems like they have a ton of stuff going on there.
Yeah, there's about 40, 45 tables. We usually get 1 to 2 20-40 Hold'em, 1 to 2 20-40 OE games, and then usually a 40-80 or greater mixed game that plays all the variants, all the Badoogie variants, Deuce to 7, Ace to 5, Omaha. They can play anywhere from a 2-game mix to 10, 15-game mix.
Appreciate all your feedback over the years. I will tell a little funny story. I was out with MJ at the Canada Women's Game, and this is our old host from a year ago, for those who are new to the show. MJ and I did the show for a long time, and Pope had a way of pushing MJ's buttons in the threads, which was always made me laugh. And I said to MJ, I'm like, oh, yeah, that Pope is in town. Do you want to come over for a beer? And he goes, I'm good. which was funny, because some of the times that you tried to tilt him.
Yeah, it did seem like at first MJ liked me more than Adam, and then I think it started with his top 500 songs or whatever, and I said, there's no way you're going to finish this if you're writing a 2-3 paragraph update on every song, and it was for like 2012 or whatever, and sure enough, he got about 100, 150 songs in, and then I kept bumping it monthly until he got the hint that I'm an asshole.
Oh, it's funny. Yeah, you put him on tilt a couple times with that. That was good fun. But yeah, he never, like you said, I don't know why he set himself such a huge goal to list 500 songs and then get a couple in and then give up. But a couple hundred in and give up. But no, good fun was had. Appreciate you coming by. That was a lot of fun, and it was nice to get out and have dinner with you guys. And look forward to seeing the forums.
Yep. Thanks for having me on.
If anybody else is dropping by Vancouver and they want to meet up and have a beer or something, shoot us a private message at 2+2 or an email at pokercast@2plus2.com. We'll try our best to spend
Twitter. Twitter works well.
Twitter is good too, yeah, for sure. All right,
and that way, if they turn out to be like an axe murderer, there's a public record of it.
That's right. Twitter in the court case of our murders. All right, so why don't we head out to the Isle of Man? Talk to our old friend, Mr. Steve Day, who is back at work after his long vacation. Steve, you're back in the salt mines grinding away back there?
Oh, yeah, exactly. Something like that.
Something like that in the beautiful weather over there, I'm sure. Somebody was showing me the Isle of Man motorcycle race. And
I was telling you about that.
Yeah.
I just watched a documentary about that. Have you ever been to it, Steve?
Yeah, I mean, the grandstand, the start-finish line is less than a mile from my house. I drive past it every day on the way to work. So last few years I've taken a holiday during that time because there's a couple of public holidays. It makes it a convenient time to get off island. It's kind of busy during that time period as well, and inconvenient because they close down the racetrack and I cross it to get to work. But yeah, I definitely a couple times I've caught some of the races. I'm not big into motorcycles and didn't think it'd be that interesting. I was going to have to check it out because it's a big thing globally, the TT, and it was actually quite interesting. I thought the sidecars are the best.
Oh, the sidecars are insane. I think it has to be like top 3 most extreme sports.
Well, like 200 people have died or something.
Over. Like I think they're coming up on like 250 people have died doing it.
Crazy.
You don't really have to even be doing it. You can die just watching it. In fact,
which is another good reason to leave the island. You don't get run over.
The odds are not very high. Of course, I don't know if it's top 3 most extreme sports. People do some pretty crazy stuff in the sport, but it is, it's a risk people take, which is a pretty serious thing. I looked into it one time, read some of the history, and there's a death by like a cow got out, or a horse got loose and got on the track, and a motorcycle ran into it. It's just, there's just risks associated with running a race on regular roads that people normally drive on.
Going like 170 miles per hour.
Yeah, right around some of those corners is pretty crazy. But let's get to some poker, Steve. I know you're an old-time grinder. You've got your eye, I'm sure, on the World Series of Poker, watching some of the action that goes down. And I want to get your reaction on sort of the state of the game of poker as it stands right now. You look at the World Series schedule. There's a lot of popularity, more and more each year in mixed games. That's really something that people have, and I wonder if it transfers to Pokerstars and how you think it's going to break down in coming up in the next few years with the game. Is it moving towards tournaments? Like it seems like tournaments are just more and more a bigger percentage of the poker playing dollar. It seems.
If you talk like big MTTs, I don't know if that's necessarily the case. And we've always been a big tournament site. As far as poker sites go online, we've used those there's a big part of our promotions, try to have the biggest prize pools, the biggest tournaments, and we certainly do by quite a large margin right now. But I don't know that I would say it's going totally that way. Just in terms of overall tournaments versus cash games, there's been a shift in action recently, but that's just because spin and goes fall in the tournament category.
Sure.
And they took a lot of action from a lot of other places. Omaha seems to be holding grabbing a little bit of influence and interest. We have a lot of people who've been playing poker for quite some time at this point, and when your interest in the game matures, you tend to look for different game forms and stuff like that. So it hasn't really blown up any of the other games, but PLO seems to be thriving.
It must be interesting to have the data like you guys do for when an account opens. This is a new player. He's seen No Limit Hold'em on television. He goes and plays and deposits $100 and goes and plays micro stakes No Limit or Zoom or what have you. And then I'm not sure if he would ever track something like this, but then he discovers another game and he moves over to PLO or 7-card stud or something like that, and so you can see the progression of an account in sort of this micro time that might take longer in real life.
Yeah, people do bounce around. It's not particularly common that they go to PLO on day 2, right? But people move around, sit and goes, cash games, scheduled tournaments, play a little bit of everything on the site. They feel like it's good that we offer all that variety. I don't know. But, as I said, there's a lot of people who have been playing poker for quite some time, but we're kind of looking to find ways to grow poker, to reach out to new segments of the market and bring in a lot of fresh blood into the game. That's why you'll see things like endorsements of Neymar and Cristiano Ronaldo, and we'll be doing more with these guys as time goes on, of course. I've seen some of the things we'll be doing, and they're quite exciting. Do you think there's a market out there, a group of people that it's possible to tap into to grow the game quite a lot?
Well, we always talk about Asia and all the different countries there with different rules. It becomes really difficult when you have some place like Brazil, like you've been going after with some of the football players. Then you can sort of grab one big segment, one huge country like Brazil, where poker is taking off, and latch on to some of those people who have influence there. Difficult in Asia, right? I mean, you don't have the same sort of thing. You have all these different governments with different rules, and China, obviously, you're going to have difficulty. But that's sort of been the market that everybody talks about for such a long time. But it's a little bit difficult to attack it like you can Brazil or some of the European countries.
Yeah, new markets are good and fantastic. People talk about India as well as China, of course. But those will happen when they happen. Obviously, we're trying, making efforts in those areas to some extent. But there's also, I think, opportunities in existing markets to try to grab different categories of people, or people just haven't been exposed to poker. It's not been there for them, or been appealing as much as maybe it could be. And maybe folks who are football fans, sports fans who are into competition but just haven't had an opportunity to be familiar with poker can be a little more open as a result of finding out that Cristiano Ronaldo and Neymar are poker players and seeing themselves in that light. Or maybe we can go after people who are, and by people I very clearly mean, adults of legal age who are playing video games. Esports and video games have become a pretty major thing out there. It's mainstream amongst the young generation. It used to be anything but when I was younger.
It's fascinating watching, stadiums full of people watching a guy play video games. It's pretty amazing that if you would have told me that like 10 years ago or 20 years ago, I would have said you're crazy. But it's almost like a social event, much like a bunch of people go to a hockey game or a football game, whatever. It almost becomes just something to do.
So esports is a pretty big thing, but what's sort of different about that is people are focused, I think, a little bit less, not completely on the skill aspect. There's a little bit of the prize money aspect to it, but it's way more about being the best than it is being any old person could win $5 million by entering, this, or share $1 million by entering such and such tournament, right? It could be you. It's way more about these guys are the best and watch them do amazing things, much more like a sport. It's esports, right? It's like watching the NBA and the NFL or something like that, when people watching don't generally think, oh, well, maybe next week I should go play against the best in the world and try to win the title. It's a very compelling case for poker, but maybe there's an opportunity to go more of the sports route, focus on the best skilled players, and it could engage in a different type of audience. I know people have tried it a little bit before, but it's never taken off. I don't know if that's because it can't work or just because it's not been done properly or with the right support.
I wonder if you'd have to find it's an interesting idea that you raised, and I wonder if you'd have to find a different format of the game to remove luck, because I think if you look at esports, like as you mentioned, they play down to whoever's the best in the world. Well, there's probably not a ton of, or if any luck involved in that, where you're absolutely going to find the best. In poker, the guy can suck out and hit, run, or whatever on the best player, but maybe there's a format where you can, take that luck out and then have this sort of competition about who makes the best decisions in the world.
I don't think you're ever going to take the luck out of the poker. There's even in esports there's that, right? There's that element of rock, paper, and scissors and some things. Sometimes in the StarCraft games, it's not currently the most popular, but for a time it was. There were different strategies you could pick, and you kind of had to mix up your range to some extent, right? It was part of the game, because if you six-pooled and the other guy didn't scout it early and two-hatched or weren't particularly greedy, then he would automatically lose, essentially, right? So if you get to mix this six-pool hyper-aggressive strategy into a certain percentage of your of your openings in order to get the other guy to have to change his range to defend against it. So there was this sense of range balancing, or there's this concept of yomi, where people become very good at predicting which strategy their opponent's going to take based on kind of getting into their head, right? And some of the best players were the ones that were seemingly good at that. So there is some skill to the prediction, but there's some strategy to making the right plays, but there's also some amount of luck as well. And it just, hey, look, you play the six pool defense 80% of the time, but not 20, and you didn't do it this time, and that's the time you six pool or something, you lose. That's the way it goes. There's definitely luck and involved in the esports and the strategies, just like there is to some extent in other games. It's an important part of poker. I don't think it'll go away, but the beauty of poker is that the luck kind of turns the longer the series of results you look at, the more the skill comes into play in determining the results. So if you had the same people competing over a longer span, you would expect that to work out, which, by the way, is the same as in sports, right? You call it luck, or you call it variation in performance day to day, but the best hockey, you don't have the best teams going undefeated in professional sports leagues, right? They have 60% win percentages as the best teams in a lot of leagues. So that's not uncommon. I think you could have matches between poker teams where the best team isn't always going to win from day to day, and maybe it's some element of people have bad days and some element of luck. You just have to have enough matches and enough of the skill element on a weekly basis. There's some correlation between skill and winning.
Well, even looking at the advanced metrics in hockey, for example, comparing it to that, some of that stuff is interesting with the new stats where you can point at a team that's running ridiculously hot, and if even if you have that in poker, you've got all kinds of stats where you can go, wow, yeah, these guys won, but look how hot they're running, and it makes for an interesting conversation as well.
Yeah, that is interesting with hockey. It's interesting to argue to what extent some of those stats, like shooting percentage, if you run really hot, how much of it is your team playing well that night, and how much is luck. I'd be interested, honestly, to hear the perspective of a professional athlete on that one, because I don't know that I'm qualified to make a judgment.
Yeah, nor am I. Speaking of some more poker, we've got the Micro Millions has been announced July 16th to 26th, the 100 events. These are amazing, hugely popular, $5 million total guaranteed prize pool. Buy-ins are all the way from $1, 11 cents, I believe, is their rebuys. But fantastic series, Steve, and stuff is already running for that.
Yeah, the first event for the first time in Micro Millions is a phase tournament, which means that for a couple of weeks, at your convenience, there's multiple opportunities. You can try to you can play the first portion of the tournament, and if you fail, then you can try it again. The next day or something like that, until you make it through to the day 2 or phase 2, which runs on the first day of Micro Millions. So it's only $1.10 to enter, and it's $75,000 guaranteed, and I expect the prize pool will end up being significantly larger. So if you want an opportunity of turning $1 into something big, and you could try to play this event multiple times, and you have a pretty good chance of getting a good shot of making the money.
Love those style of tournaments. Also, if you want a chance to turn $22 into hundreds of thousands of dollars, there's $1 million. The main event is July 26th, $22 buy-in, $1 million guaranteed prize pool.
That one's always completely insane.
It's just that's a great tournament. A lot of value there to play. So
like 10,000 people cash or something.
Yeah, it's massive. It's these get just huge fields, and they're a lot of fun if you're an MTT guy. Steve, thanks so much. Really appreciate your insight and some talk about some of the stuff going on over at Pokerstars.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. We'll speak again soon.
Many thanks to Steve Day. We talked on some wider range topics rather than some specific ones. That was good to tackle some of those. Terrence, we got a ton of mailbag stuff to get to. We've been putting it off for weeks. Are you good to go? Well, first, before we do that, why don't we do the 140 or less?
It's 140 characters. That's it. I love hashtags. I love all of them.
Terrence Chan
needs more than 140 characters to express itself.
140 or less.
Some good ones this week.
Well, there's one that wins the internet. I mean, there is one that is the best tweet so far in the entire history of 140 or less. And to give you a little background on this is Pratyush Paduga. He is playing in the one drop, the big one for one drop, $111,000 buy-in. He's at the same table with Brian Hastings and Phil Ivey. And Phil Ivey has just made his debut at the 2015 World Series of Poker. Nobody knew he was going to be in town.
People were speculating till the very last minute, is Phil Ivey going to show up for the one drop?
Will he be here? And he was. Turned out he was. He drew the table with Pratyush and Brian Hastings. And very early on, when they first started playing, Brian Hastings raises Phil Ivey's big blind, and Ivey looks up and says, "All right, Noel."
So good. It's so good. He's so witty, and he doesn't get credit for it, because he basically says 5 words per poker tournament. But when he opens his mouth, it's just so witty and so clever.
It was so perfect. It was right in the middle of the whole controversy that Pratyush took to Twitter to announce what Ivey had said is fantastic. I remember just laughing my ass off when I saw that. Great humor. So that was Pratyush Paduga at Pratyush Paduga.
You have to be a special person for Pratyush to follow you. Apparently, he has a select 100 people that he follows, and if he follows a new person, he kicks someone out.
I used to do that too, and I totally believed in. I for forever I refused to go over the 100 mark, but then as I broke through, it just all hell went loose. Yeah. So I applaud him on sticking to that.
He's lost friends over it.
This tweet.
Yeah, well, no, because when he unfollows someone, they're like, "Oh, look, they're
bastard."
Hurt. They're hurt.
How would you ever lose a friend?
It's strong though. I admire his dedication for it. He's a stronger man than me. That's just straight up.
If you lose a friend because you unfollowed him on Twitter, it wasn't a very good friend to begin with.
I've also pro tip. I've gotten some good Twitter follows from looking at who those people are.
Ah, there you go.
Oh, that's smart. Yeah, but no, Adam is kind of right, but at the same time, I don't follow a lot of my friends just because, I try to keep my content down to a minimum. So that's why I'm a little choosy about it anyway. But they're still friends. I still think they're great.
Yeah, but not good enough. You want to follow them.
At Mont Salzburg, Russian on my left in sweats, whiffs a flush draw at a shower, angrily slams table, stands up to go, but has a hard on. Good team, go fuck yourself update. I thought that was pretty funny.
All right, then.
All right.
I could have done without that one, to be honest.
Yeah? No, you didn't need that one?
No, I don't need the hard-on sweatpants, no.
Salzburg's pretty funny. At Terrence Chan, at T-Chan Poker, no phones, no tablets, no magazines, no talking. You miss your ante 3 times in an orbit, and you get to sit there and watch every hand.
Yeah,
so tilted yesterday in the little one, just the same guy over and over. And I got on his case, and I was like, dude, there's an ante every hand. Really, every hand. And he just never got better at it.
That's tilting.
Yeah, that is tilting.
So, did you see this picture from Odd Odson?
I did not.
Okay, well, I'll read the caption. This guy just busted. So they're playing a huge PLO game at Bellagio. So you see a stack of a bunch of Bellagio big chips, and then next to Odd Odson is a gold bar. And it says, "This guy just busted and reloaded with 1 kilogram of pure gold, worth $38,000. He got one buyer
amazing.
And another shot in the game." This is
somebody bought the gold off him at the table?
Yeah.
That's fantastic. At Sir Watts, this is Mike Watson. As the greatest live turbo player of my generation, I'm guaranteeing victory today. Next tweet, out 49th. I meant guarantee more in the French partouche meaning of the word.
Oh, snap.
Yeah,
that's a good one. That is excellent. That's a great reference to something we don't even mention anymore.
All right, so that is 140 or less for this week. Let's move on to some shout-outs. This is people coming into the Pokercast forum and posting in the thread, where in the world are you listening from? We love this thread. It's our favorite thread. We talk about it nonstop. Please take some time out if you're listening to the show and haven't posted. I beg of you to come in and tell us where you're posting or where you're listening from. The first one is Luke. All spelled out phonetically. I'm guessing that his name is Luke. Longtime listener, a couple of years, non-existent forum contributor, and rare logger inner. Love listening to you guys. Listening from Bundaberg, Australia. Pretty flippin' long way from Kells. 1,631 kilometers. Much love, and keep smashing them out. Which actually got me thinking. He's 1,638 miles from Kells.
16,000.
Sorry, 16,000 miles from Kells, or kilometers from Kells. Where is the farthest point?
Listener from Kells.
On the Earth? No, where's the farthest point on the Earth?
On planet Earth. It's got to be around the Australia.
Be like Hawaii or something.
Or like the South Indian, the South Pacific.
Wilbury Twist, a longtime poster and listener to our show, turned out that it's actually somewhere in New Zealand.
Oh.
Is the farthest point. Yeah, South Pacific, you said, exactly.
New Zealand's like the farthest point from anywhere in the world, except for Australia.
Except Australia.
And it's still far from Australia.
Africa.
Like, it's funny, if you're from anywhere other than Australia or New Zealand, and you go to Australia and you think, I should do a side trip to New Zealand, it's still like a 3.5 hour flight. You think it's like right there. It's really not.
Russ says, listening from Lacey, Washington, 40 miles south of Seattle, or 4,530 miles from Kells. I'm an avid listener. Haven't missed an episode since 2010. I use a podcast app called Downcast. Highly recommended, by the way. And when I was first introduced to the show, I dug into the backlog. I listened at 2 or 3 times the speed to get caught up. Once I was caught up, it took me a while to get used to Mike and Adam's voice at normal speed. I was sad to see Mike go, but I'm still loving the show. Adam and Terrence found a real groove together, and Ross brings a good balance to the mix as well. Keep up the good work. Imagine 3 times speed.
Yeah, he was shocked to learn you weren't actually a chipmunk.
I've listened to 1.5 times, and that's okay. I can get away with 1.5. Once I get to 2, it's all kind of, like you say, it sounds like the chipmunks.
Yeah, it's weird. One of the funniest things I have done, and my roommate can attest to this, is if you're a Crush Live Poker subscriber, go listen to the Lyman Show on half speed.
Oh my god. That would be tilting.
It's the funniest thing you've ever heard in your life. It's absolutely hilarious.
All right. Chimpy 11. I'm listening from Cheltenham, England, 449 miles from Kells. And soon, he says M from Kells. It's got to be, but they don't use miles in England.
They do. In England, they use miles.
England's miles? Sorry.
They use their speed limit signs are in miles.
Okay, 449 miles from Kells, and soon on a road trip with my wife from Vancouver to Vegas. We land on July 1st, which is today.
Awesome. I've done that many times.
She flies home on the 21st, me on the 28th, to give me a chance to recoup the cost of the trip. He actually inserted a picture of a restaurant billboard that read, "Roses are red, bacon is red, poems are hard, bacon," which is very poetic. I was digging that, and I want to go to their restaurant.
It's very cool that he's doing that drive, though. I've done that drive so many times.
Oh,
it's not the most exciting drive, to be honest, but it's cool that he's doing it.
There's a number of ways to do it. If you just go down the I-5, you're
it's
not
boring.
Have the best
you see a whole bunch of nothing.
Yeah. If you want to go to the Oregon coast or somewhere beautiful, you're going to have
beautiful, but takes forever.
Great trip, but takes forever. Nolman 34. I'm listening from Winter Garden, Florida, 4,038 miles from Kells. Usually at the gym. Thank you for entertaining me as I ride along in the exercise bike working off the bacon. Faithful listener for 2 years. Keep up the good work. Canadian Sweets. Hey guys, I'm listening from Goderich, Ontario, but originally from Sarnia. Home of the Sarnia Sting, right?
Oh.
I like to listen to the podcast when I'm doing my longer distance run each week, which helps me pass the time. I really enjoy all the side bets, whatnot, chit-chat that comes up this time of year, and the World Series of Poker and golf trips. Keep up the good show, guys. Poster 271.3 M from Kells. I'm guessing it's miles. 271.3 miles from Kells. That's the name of his account. As I go on my own selfish journey between cities in the UK, I think, where's the Pokercast this week? I've been listening about 5 years and often get a few weeks behind depending on my daily travel. Recently, though, I'm up to date and waiting for the new episode. I even had to download Serial despite the spoiler in the last episode about the conclusion or a lack of it. The World Series of Poker is always tough for our schedule. We're working around Terrence's playing schedule this year, and our guests are often playing poker, so we want to record the show at a time when we can, get the most guests for people to listen to. So we do bounce around a little bit.
Props on the account name.
Great account name.
Man, did this dude just did this?
Sam moves on. Hey guys, love the show. I'm listening in Portland, Oregon, which is 7,447 kilometers from Kells. I love that he used kilometers, even though he's American.
That's correct.
I own a couple of food carts here in Portland, and you guys...
The capital of food carts, by the way.
It is, but yeah.
Yeah.
And you guys get played in the cart every morning while we set up. Keep up the good work, and if you're ever in Portland, stop by my cart downtown. We make the best bacon in the world.
Done. When are we going?
Unrelated.
I think it's worth a trip to Portland.
And
tomorrow?
Unrelated news, we're doing the show from Portland next week.
We need the World Series of Portland.
Yes,
that's fantastic, Sam. Thanks for listening. Appreciate it. Jim Boca. Hi, guys. Longtime listener from London, Ontario, where I went to university, the University of Western Ontario. I listen to the Pokercast while driving my Greyhound bus between London and Ottawa. Makes my long drives go a lot smoother. I also qualified for the Daniel Negreanu summer party. I really look forward to meeting you guys on August 1st. Thanks for many years of great content. That's great. We are going to the summer party that Daniel Negreanu is hosting at Real Sports in Toronto on August 1st. If you are in Toronto or qualified to go to that party, that's going to be fun. We're looking forward to that. You're going to bring Robin?
Yeah, we'll be there. Looking forward to the hot and humid Toronto summer. Not really, but it should be fun.
Yeah,
definitely looking forward to meeting as many listeners as possible.
Absolutely.
Speaking of that, I mean, I'll go off on a tangent for a sec, but I've met so many people here at the World Series. You guys were only here for about a week, but I've met so many people who've come up to me and said nice things about the Pokercast. So
oh, really? Cool.
I really appreciate anybody who's done that and came up to me at any point during the series. But definitely a lot of people out there and quiet, and they're not necessarily always in the threads, but they'll see us in person. So looking forward to meeting Jim Boca and the rest in Toronto.
Indeed.
And Adam, who are you bringing to the summer party?
I'm bringing my wife.
My wife!
You just wanted to drop that. I love it. Effie, hello, gents. I'm from Finland, but currently listening to you from Dubai in the United Arab Emirates, 6,100 kilometers from Kells. All gaming is illegal in the UAE, and even the 2+2 website is blocked. But luckily, my podcast app still has the link.
How did he post in the forum?
I guess he's VPNing.
Oh, no.
It's okay if you want to use 2+2. I'll allow it.
My podcast app still has the link to the 2+2 Pokercast, and I'm able to download your weekly rants. I had to wait until holidays back in Finland just to be able to post this message. There we go. I fell in love with poker about 10 years ago.
On the internet.
While living in Dublin, Ireland, not far from Kells at all, and I've been listening to this show since it was in double digits. My favorite guests have definitely been old-school British and Irish-type players, with Neil Channing being the most memorable. I must say, Aria was great too. It's been over 2 years since I played a hand of poker, but still can't stop listening to your show. So please keep up the good work. Yeah, we need to.
I played with Neil Channing 2 days ago.
Oh, did you?
It was awesome. We were at the same starting table with Alan Shulman and James Woods. So
oh my god,
a fun little one table.
Has Hillary Sahami's made an appearance in the World Series?
Yeah. Oh, not this one. Years ago, he was here on the show.
That guy's a legend.
I thought it was funny you were tweeting T about James Woods that you didn't actually know if it was him or not.
I had no idea whether James Woods was...
Because you never... Have you ever seen a James Woods movie?
I don't think so.
You just... Well, you don't...
Well, I mean, and he's more of a director than an actor, isn't he?
No, he's an actor.
No, I think you're thinking...
I don't know anything.
Clint Eastwood.
I don't know anything.
I didn't know. Well, it was funny, right? Because, the way that he was talking...
Yeah.
When someone has a way of speaking where he... implies or he sort of tacitly believes that other people know who he is, like they talk different from other people.
Yep.
And I was just like, this guy's acting like he's famous, so I guess he is.
We need more.
And I figured it out eventually.
We need more celebrities with catchphrases to play poker.
We need some more. So that guy brings up a good point. We got to get some more old school British people. I know we're recording the show now here at a time when we can get more guys. So if you're in England and you have somebody that you would like to hear on the show, please hop into the thread, suggest a guest. There's a suggest a guest thread. Use that. Please, we'd love to have some English people, but we need to know who you guys want to hear from.
What was it? Tupper from the 10K PLO final table?
Simon Trumper.
He...
after you shit on him, he's going to come on the show.
Yeah, I shit on him a little bit, and on Twitter I did too. But and then somebody said that he's been on our show before.
You're supposed to encourage guests.
I didn't say he was a terrible person, and I don't like him. I just said he just played a couple of hands.
He has been on the show.
We'll let Ross lead that interview.
Indeed. All right, Dice Pop, 7,803 kilometers from Kells to Reno, Nevada. Listening during drives about town or for work. Can't wait each week to download and listen. Pokercast goes right to the top of my list, ahead of Mike and Mike, Dan, Patrick, Dave Ramsey, and all. Thanks for hours of laughs and thought-provoking chat. Congrats to Terrence on Final Table and Limit Tourney. Go Sharks. Oh, man. Poor dude. You think we're Canuck fans and we're painful, being a fan of this team. Imagine being a Sharks fan.
At least we... The difference between Canucks fans and Sharks fans is Canucks fans have accepted that we're bad. They haven't.
They just still think they're good.
That intro was like a ridiculous shark scope graph. It was amazing, and then just dropped right off at the end.
Go Sharks! All right, let's get to the mailbag.
And now.
That right there is the mail. Now let's talk about the mail. Can we talk about the mail, please, Malcolm? I'm dying to talk about the mail with you all day, okay?
Mailbag.
Craig Timmons. Hi, everybody. I'm a big fan of the mixed games and I've been playing Horse and 8-game online for years. Limit Hold'em is by far my weakest game, and I just about managed to get by. I never seem to know where I'm at in a hand and find myself bleeding chips. I know Adam and Terrence are longtime players, and I was wondering if you'd give me some tips and good reading material. T, where do you go for good learning material for Limit Hold'em these days?
I have absolutely no idea.
When was the last time you read a Limit Hold'em book?
That is not the right answer. Boy, I mean, it's been so long since I read Hold'em for advanced players and like winning low limit Hold'em and stuff like that. And I don't think those are great resources for playing the game. If I'm going to give you a great resource, I would suggest actually checking out, and this is something that I've only recently started using myself, is go to the Scoop Final Table replay and watch those guys play their hands face up.
Interesting.
You won't necessarily understand the concepts of what's going on there, but you will at least understand what the high limit players are doing. And I think if you're a strong player, you'll sort of get it. This is what I did when I was trying to decide whether I was going to play the no limit deuce. As I pulled up the final table scoop replay of the no limit deuce. And there are some definitely, I can't remember who final tabled the Limit Hold'em, but there's definitely some strong players in there. Go in there, check out what they're doing. Maybe post some hands and go into the limit forums on 2+2 and go like, if you find a hand where you're like, I don't understand why this guy played it this way, that's kind of I would say that's a good place to start, because I'm really not sure whether the literature is any good. I mean, Hold'em for advanced players is an okay book, and I don't, Mason. I hope Mason isn't listening right now, but I, in my opinion, as somebody who's very successful in this game, I think it does have some flaws. But
I think specifically, you said it was a little bit tight on the button, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was specifically for the heads up stuff. So I mean, I made all my money playing heads up, and the heads up stuff. Yeah, that's a good call. The heads up stuff is way too tight in Hold'em for advanced players. I think it recommended like 40% of hands, whereas I play like 80% of my hands. But it definitely does teach some good concepts. All the old stuff. I don't know. If you've been playing Horse and 8-game online for years, you might even be a little bit ahead of that, even if you think it's one of your weakest games. So I would suggest kind of getting a start, watching guys play high stakes for heads up online, and posting in forums, and maybe I'll make an effort of jumping in a thread at some point. If you do that and you can send me a ping on there, I'll try to jump into that thread. I won't commit to doing this all the time, but maybe I'll be able to do it once for some listeners.
Well, and it's a good point. I was going to say all the limit forums on 2+2 are a fantastic resource, because the game's always changing. There, a lot of material out there is good, for fundamental type things. I agree with you, Terrence, but I think there's some other places you can go where people who are very advanced that are playing this game that are talking about hands, and that's in the 2+2 limit hold'em forms. There's a high stakes, a medium stakes, a small stakes, a micro stakes, short-handed, heads-up limit. There's all kinds of different forms on limit hold'em. Go take advantage of those because there's all kinds of hands there and great players posting about those hands.
Oh, you can also maybe watch a documentary about the rainforest or go to the zoo and study the monkeys.
That's your... What's that from? I have no idea.
Well, I mean, you're flinging poo.
Ah, the poo flinging. Wow, that slid right by me. Daniel Levine. Adam, sitting here 3,941 nautical miles from Kells and a mere 9,709,022 feet from Vancouver. I'll let you do the triangulation. I looked at my inbox to see a notice from Shock of Shocks, the Full Tilt Claims Processing Posse. I had applied way back when, but I didn't hear anything after the first and second wave were processed. I wrote it off. I had, if I recall, 3 people sign up under me through an affiliate link, and I assume that was enough for the DOJ to decide I was deeply in cahoots with Ray Bitar. In quotes, pauses to spit. And a hardened criminal to boot. I'll admit to enjoying an occasional lobster, but beyond that, I'll lawyer up. It was a few $100, but it was also exactly the kind of administravia. Great. Is administravia a word? That's a fantastic word, by the way. Exactly the kind of administravia I work hard to avoid. So, yeah, they said I would see it in my bank account within a week. It's not there yet, but my government wouldn't lie to me, right? Anyway, it was good news, and you seem to enjoy the occasional ray of Full Tilt flavored sunshine, so there you go. A few random notes. The interview with Sean Deeb was really solid. It was surprising for someone whose misuse of the written form of the English language has become a thing of legend. He was very articulate face-to-face over the long form. Well done. Did MJ make a nobody will win 2 bracelets bet with you this year? That was fun. Listening to him irrationally refuse the bet no matter what odds or which side you offered, then listening to him try and rationalize behavior, and then finally take the bet and then lose, sometimes on the last events of the summer. Good times. We did not make the bet this year. That was part of my... I calculated that on my income every year. I knew I was going to win that bet every year, so I kind of counted on that. Unfortunately, I don't get that income anymore. I think most Roscoe reports boil down to, maybe don't bet there. End quote. Keep it coming.
Sounds right.
T-Chan, I watched the fight documentary video. The commentary video. For someone not all into the sport, but quite into human behavior in various forms, is really interesting and well done. Appreciate it. Thanks.
That's like the most backhanded comment. He's quite into human behavior in various forms.
Is Ross barred from the Rhino for some indiscretion committed deep in his past? Is it possible for you to take him to Vegas and not take him there? Weird, right? We didn't. How did we not go to the Rhino when we were going to all the strip bars?
We kept it. We kept it real though.
We did. We went old school.
Yeah.
You guys went to like the terrible strip club or something, right?
It was the worst. Yeah, the Not Low strip club.
That was more fun.
It was fun.
Yeah.
Do you know of a good URL that lays out the rules for open face? I want to teach my daughter to play. I just think it would be a fun way to steal back her allowance and pass the time. I find the wiki is there better. Not that I'm aware of. I mean, I think if you download the app, and I think the rules are right in the app, the ABC Poker app that Nikolai, who we had on the show a while ago, created. So if you want to check out the rules for Pineapple Open Faced, head on over there. Finally, no love for the Women's World Cup. None. Shame on you. Women's World Cup held here in Canada. The Canadian team was knocked out in the quarterfinals by England, who today lost to Japan on an own goal in extra time, which was a bit of a fail, but too bad because I was hoping England would go to the final. The U.S. seems very, very strong and is probably a pretty big favorite at this point.
Although that foul was so outside the box.
It was bad.
Did you see that?
Yeah, I did. But they were going to win anyway.
But geez.
It was bad call, yeah. Land & Co. Hey, guys, my wife and I live in Los Angeles, and we want to visit Canada this summer. Can you share any ideas on places to visit that offer lodges, fishing, and or hiking? Well, I will say, Landon, if you're going to come to Canada and you're going to go anywhere, you're going to find hiking pretty much anywhere. As long as you it's not in the prairies that you're going. If you're in BC, you're not far from fantastic hiking at all times and fishing as well. I used to go up to a place up near Kitimat on the coast of BC called West Coast Resorts. They had a fantastic fishing lodge there. I used to go up there with my dad, and we had a lot of fun up there. There's tons and tons of fishing resorts around BC. If you just want to Google it, you'll find a whole bunch if you want to do that kind of thing. And hiking, nonstop hiking everywhere.
Yeah, I love hiking the North Shore Mountains. I used to do it with your brother quite often. Before he started grinding all the time in LA, we used to go on hikes in the North Shore in North Vancouver. The North Shore of Vancouver, North Vancouver, British Columbia. Just about 15 miles out of town, you start getting driving up to some fantastic hikes. And again, as you said, Google. I don't want to say to this guy just Google everything, but you can. There's even apps for it. There's no shortage of hiking. I don't know anything about fishing. I've never been fishing in my life, but we do have the best wild salmon. So they have to come out of some river or another, right?
Yeah, indeed. Troy Brown. Hey guys, really love the World Series of Poker coverage and Vegas Stories. Just returned late last week and I had a quick story. So I'm playing 1-2 PLO at the Rio. As an aside, is essentially a 5-10 game with the bring in as 5 and everybody's rattled to 10 on the button. This is the same game Ross played in. Mm-hmm. Is a tremendous game with players who would constantly get it in on a flop with ace, XX. So a guy sits down to my left. Within a half an hour, I can tell this guy's a strong player with great knowledge of the game. He's super nice, pretty big, husky dude. Clue number 1. I started talking with him, and he says he's from Canada. Clue number 2. I ask where, and he says near Vancouver. Clue number 3. He says he plays some tourneys, but is a cash game player. Clue number 4. We talk further, and he says one of his close friends may be the best tournament player in the world without a bracelet. Who? I ask. Sean Buchanan. He says clue number 5. I finally asked excitedly, are you Adam Schwartz? No, it turns out his name is Duncan Bell, our buddy Pumper. Not sure if you know him, but he's a nice guy and a strong low-limit PO player from your neck of the woods. He does just go into a hand that they played, but it's quite long and involved, so we don't have enough time, unfortunately, for that one. But that's a funny story that you thought Duncan, our buddy Duncan, was me. Ray says, Adam, I'm a long-time listener from... Oh, man, this one's tough. T, can you try that?
Cirencester?
Cirencester.
Probably. Ross doesn't even know that was wrong, but yeah, you're probably right.
He's got the best.
He's playing the odds on that one.
In the UK, 364 miles from Kells. After listening to the show the other day about the guy taking advice to get better PLO, playing in Canada, getting 25 big blinds per 100, and everybody's saying so hard to get. Now that I've been playing micro stakes for a while and doing okay, I guess about break even, but I'm trying to learn, so been data mining a few players. I watch playing 1-2 to 5-10 on Pokerstars. I do this to watch plays and see moves, where to shove, etc. What's that, T?
Is that legal? I don't remember if that's a term of service violation or not.
To data mine?
To data mine, yeah.
Yeah, you got to be in the games. I guess maybe he's probably not dead. Yeah. Well, maybe he is. I don't know.
Well, you can't see their whole cards on folded hands, but if you
can see them if they come face up.
If you open up a table to observe, PT4 will still track their stats.
Right. All right. Well, I'm not going to report them because
some hands were face up.
Yeah,
some hands do get to face up.
In PLO, I guess you can see a lot of.
He's doing it just to find win rates anyway.
Yeah.
Now, it's been a slow process, but I've gathered about 9,000 hands on a Pokerstars Pro. I won't mention the name to protect them, and another reg who I'll also not name. Both play different style. The Pro plays 40-25. That is a 40% VPIP, 25% raising, over about 9,000 hands, and is getting 26 big blinds per 100 on Pokerstars.
Wow.
The non-pro plays 34-23 over about 4K hands and is getting 14 big blinds per 100. He attaches the proof in the charts. So there does seem to be some money to be made on Pokerstars at mid-stakes. I just got to get there. Anyways, I'm sure you'll be looking to get in the action after seeing these charts. Keep up the great show. I think he said he had 9,000 hands, which isn't
it's like a day
a large sample. Yeah. So to say somebody's 26 big blinds per 100 over 9,000.
Yeah, hands. I missed that. I zeroed in on the 26 and my eyes bugged out of my head.
I mean, you need a much
if you got that over 900,000 hands, then we'll talk.
Yeah. Nicholas, hi Adam, Terrence, and Ross. I have a question related to the World Series of Poker. How long do you think the kind of schedule the World Series of Poker propose? Well, I guess English might not be his first language. The World Series of Poker propose will last. I'm guessing he means the schedule right now. Lots of 1.5K, 2.5K, and 3K, and very few 10K events. Since the entries went down this year, again in those events, would the World Series of Poker reconsider adjusting the 10K to something like 20K, so to grow up the prize pool so it can be more attractive to the pros, and adjusting the lower buy-in events to 2K for all events or something like that. The schedules haven't changed for years, but the economy did change. What are your thoughts? I think it's the other way. I think you look at the success that the Colossus, the $500 buying Colossus has had, the one drop, the little one for one drop is $1,100 as well. The Millionaire Maker, Monster Stack. These are all tournaments with the buy-ins have gone down to accommodate and have got massive fields. So I think we're going to see a lot more of that kind of thing rather than and we do have a lot of 10Ks too.
I would say we even took in the, you mentioned the 10K limit hold'em back in early part of the show. We even took like sort of an informal poll, whether the limit. So a lot of the current 10Ks used to actually be 5Ks or were 5Ks for a couple of years, including limit hold'em, and we kind of thought, maybe it's not even that bad to reduce the 10K limit hold'em to a 5K, and that might be the case for other ones too, just to get to field sizes of, like say 250, right? So I think there are definitely a lot of players out there who would think getting 250 players for a 5K is better than getting 110 players for a 10K. And just not just because the prize pool is a little higher, but then you get some people who are a little bit more dead money in the game, whereas you talk about 110 players in the 10K, like 80 of them are like world-class players in that game.
Yeah.
And it's really, tough going, as you mentioned that. So I agree with you completely. I think we're looking at smaller buy-ins, as opposed to bigger, especially, and he alluded to it. The things that the economy's changed. The American dollar is very, very strong right now. We obviously can't predict how strong the American dollar will be next year, but if it's something that like this, then I would expect the big buy-ins will continue to be lower.
Hayes Parks writes, "Hi guys, so with the dearth of poker in the USA after the death of online poker after Black Friday, I'm using the lull to study and strengthen my game. At 1-2 no limit hold'em, in live play I'm making $32 an hour, playing at Harrah's, Cherokee, Windstar, and Choctaw. 16
BB an hour.
Pretty crazy. Yeah, that's a really good win rate. I've been telling myself for a while now that I need to learn a second game, as Luke Krieger suggested. I've decided that clearly PLO is the best choice. If you're in my shoes, what would be the best way to go about it? Any specific books you would recommend? I have 3 of the 4 Jeff Wang books. I've downloaded several PLO video series from Deuces Cracked. Any suggestions would be appreciated. Also, what's the best way to handle boorish behavior at the table? There's a few times I've faced it. I've just walked. F that nonsense. Not ideal to walk if the game is good. It isn't good for our game and could potentially chase away new recreational players. I always think it's turning the tables on the guy who's being an idiot. I'm going to that's the taking a passive sort of hello sir, would you please stop doing that approach isn't the way I like to deal with people like that. I like to give it back to them a little bit and make it clear that they're being idiots, but poking them a little bit, I don't know, Tia, how you go about that.
Well, I mean, that's not everybody's cup of tea in the sense that like not everybody's comfortable doing that. I mean, I suspect if this guy is not comfortable doing that's going to work very well. Some people are just not confrontational. You and I happen to be assholes, so we're really good at that kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a tough spot because you don't want to be the guy who runs to the floor man and says this guy's a jerk. But some people are naturally not that confrontational. If it's boorish behavior directed at you,
if it's directed at women at the table, I'm going to white knight, as they say, and go after the guy pretty hard. If it's swearing or whatever at somebody else in the game who's happens to be somebody who can take it, like a pro or whatever, it's not a big deal. But if you're attacking somebody who's making it feel quite uncomfortable, then I'm going I'm going to definitely go after the person. I don't like to run to the floor, man. I like to try and deal with it, but not always is that successful. As to the PLO question, we talked about another person who was asking about playing or learning a new game. PLO clearly being the best choice, I think, at the moment. I think with PLO specifically as a game, you need to play hands. And Ross, you could talk about this because you were a no-limit player, went to PLO. I really think it's a game where you actually have to play a lot of hands and get yourself into situations before you understand how it goes, because it's so much different, especially coming from No Limit Hold'em.
Yeah. There's also a Crush Live PLO series on CrushLivePoker.com.
Yeah, CrushLivePoker.com. You can check that out, especially for live play.
The replays of the final tables this year have some good PLO players talking about concepts that are worth checking out.
Now, why are they doing that at final tables? They shouldn't be doing that.
What do you mean?
No, the commentators.
The commentators. I thought you were talking about the players.
So we talked about the
Sorry, I thought you were talking about the players.
Well, my range here is clearly. We talked about the 10K PLO that was pretty star-studded, and the commentary on that was pretty top-notch. I mean, it's been a while. I remember the Jeff Wang books being quite good, but you bring up a really good point about the experience factor, and a lot of that is just in PLO is just sort of realizing certain concepts through just living them, right? Like, so I mentioned a long time ago, earlier in the show about the whole two pair on board thing means it's less likely to have a full house. It's a very easy thing. Oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. But then you get in that situation, you realize, oh, okay, well now I do have to value bet the flush, or maybe I even just value bet like the bottom trips on that kind of thing, or even things like not have, like when you're playing live, especially when you flop the big wrap, not looking at your cards like 5 times to see which cards make your straight is really valuable. I think it just like that kind of thing alone, because when you just have like the rundown, it's not always easy to tell if you don't have a lot of experience what your cards are.
Indeed. Scott, hi guys, rec player, but take it seriously. Go to the World Series of Poker for 10 days each year. Played in 2 bracelet events this year, Monster Stack classes. Took a gross beat on day 2, about $200 for the money. In the Monster Stack, I bagged 63K in chips. Was super excited for day 2. The first 2 orbits are chip leader with about 160. Plays about 80% of his hands. He's no doubt looking chip up the first hour or two. So roughly hand 25 or so into day 2. I opened a 4,200 at 800 1.6K. I now have 54K behind. I think 2 or 3 from the button with the Queen 8 of diamonds. Folds to the bully chip leader in the big blind who calls. Flop comes 10-6-3, 2 diamonds. A big blind checks. I make it 6K. The big blind calls. The turn's the king of diamonds. So our hero now has the second nuts. Big blind splashes out 13K. I have 48K remaining. What should I do? And here's what I do. First of all, what should you do? I think that's a pretty good spot to flat. And let the guy hang himself way ahead, way behind again, Terrence?
Yeah, I mean, sort of. I mean, you're not really going to be way behind very often. If you do, that's pretty sick.
You're way behind to one hand, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. I tend to agree with you. It's a good spot. There's, a 4th diamond on the river could potentially cost you the pot, and it'll cost you at least a big bet. But the sizing is about right. I think if you're deeper, you definitely raise. But it's 13K, and he says he has 48K remaining. I don't know if that includes the call. I think it doesn't. So if he calls, it calls, he'll leave 35, which is about a little bit more than a pot size bet left. So it's a good spot to be able to shove on the river. He refers to this guy as a bully and a chip leader and all that kind of stuff. So you generally want those guys to blast on you when you're holding the goods.
I act like I think I'm thinking for a while and raised to 28,000. He insta-jams all in, and I insta-call my last 20K. He, of course, flips over the ace-4 diamonds, and I puke on myself to a nice hand. I get to come home and lick my wounds for several months until the next time I get a chance to play some big tournaments. Went out to the table for the next hour or 2. I felt fine about what happened, just told myself it's one of those things. But now thinking deeper into it and knowing how badly I wanted to grind day 2, I continue to think I should call the bet. And then call would have been probably 15 or 20,000 on the river bet. My main thought being, of course, what is he ever going to call with and re-raise with?
Okay, so, I mean, I think if he bets 15K on the river, you raise him all in and he busts you anyway. Your hand is too good, I think, just to flat unless you really have a great read. But this is a good lesson in the sense that just because somebody is really aggressive doesn't mean they don't have it. I think a lot of people make this mistake when a guy's playing a lot of hands. They get it in real light, thinking this guy's just a big bully and he's aggressive and, my hand is so good here.
But he has the second nuts, so he's not real light here in this spot.
Well, no. It speaks more to the general point than the specific game. Right, he has the second nuts. You're going to go broke with the second nuts. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're not folding the queen high flush.
You should go broke with the second nuts quite often. I mean, this isn't like triple draw or something like that, where number two is frequently loses. I mean, it's one of those things. It's a bad beat. You should never actually go into make a decision thinking, I really want to grind day two either. That's not your goal. Your goal is just win the poker tournament, increase your EV, whatever.
And the other thing I would say is if you're at a table and the chip leader's in the big blind and you feel like you can pick on the rest of the table, maybe you can fold the queen eight pre if it's that guy's big blind. If he's going to be a guy that you're going to double through a lot, but also if you're picking up no risk chips from maybe the rest of the field. I think it depends.
But you're still going to open two off the button with queen eight suited.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know that. I think I might be. It's just one of those spots where I think you can. If it's a good no spot, I'm not saying this happens all the time, but if you're at a table, especially in one of these huge field events where you really think you can almost pick up risk-free chips from everybody else, do you need to go after the guy who's playing super aggressive and is the chip leader of the table? That's all I'm saying.
You're not going after him. You're just playing queen eight suited, man.
Okay, but you're playing. Okay. Love the show, guys. Thanks for doing what you do. Mackinnon writes, you asked for feedback on this week's show, the one from your house. It was fine, no worries, and far better than the previous week from Vegas, which sounded like you were in some weird, expansive echo chamber. Congrats on making it through 4 interviews, and I repeat my comment from last week in the Roscoe Report. Keep them coming, and I would have folded there. I love that that's now a meme.
The echo chamber that is Palm's place.
Yeah, indeed. Martin, hey Adam, great show. Been hooked since episode 40-ish. I'm from Vidorv, Denmark, about 1,800 kilometers from Tels. My only question is, did you and MJ have your annual double bracelet bet? Hashtag easy money. I mentioned before.
People are really concerned about your prop betting career.
Yeah, I just owned MJ in a lot. Everything except.
I was going to say, like, are they so disappointed that they don't have, like, your co-host isn't quite as big a mark?
Yeah, you're not a fish. That's the problem. Justin, Adam, and Terrence, I'm in a home game league with 20 players that awards World Series of Poker packages to the top finishers at the end of the season. I found this email below between 2 of the players in the league. It seems like they were outright colluding based on the conversation between them. What's your take on their conversation? Is it something that warrants me speaking up, demanding a refund, or disqualification of these 2 players? Thanks for your help. This is from Justin. Terrence, I forwarded the email to you. You read it. This is an email that this person intercepted somehow between 2 of the players in his league, and without reading it all the way through, or reading it out to everybody, these 2 were clearly colluding. There's no question at all.
Well, at least the guy who's authoring the email
True.
was colluding. I guess you can't always imply the other
he
side.
He alluded to agreements, I believe, with the other guy, and it was just out-and-out collusion, soft playing, etc.
Certainly looks like a big smoking gun to me.
So the next question, of course, then is what to do about it. And here's the thing. I think when you're in sort of a league like this, the way that this guy wrote this email, it didn't seem like he even knew that it was unethical what he was doing. It seemed like he thought.
Yeah, he seemed more upset that the agreement was broken.
Because this guy played a hand he felt that he shouldn't have. The guy that he was sending the email to. Oh, we already have this agreement, and why did you do this? And it just really seemed like he had no clue that it was something that shouldn't be done. How does that fit into what you should do about it? I really don't know. I think it probably is something that should have been laid out. When you set a league amongst friends, you probably need to or should say something, especially if they're inexperienced players, about the fact that, hey guys, we're all playing hard against each other. There's no soft playing, so just
I'm going to disagree with you a little that this guy didn't know what he was doing now that I think about it, because there's poker terminology that's used in this email that's clearly by experienced players. Like, I won't read the whole email like you said, but this guy goes, flop was king 6-5, I under the gun jam 25-25 or whatever. I am now of the opinion that this guy knew what he was doing, because even just using those 3 letters UTG.
So what would you do in this case if you were just
disqualify them both?
DQ them? Yeah. All right. I think the ticket was for this year's World Series, and we didn't get to his email in time. But I'm curious as to what you did do in that situation. So maybe let us know.
Yeah, definitely.
Sanchez writes a book. An email that's very long, and it's an interesting hand he played in the KPT, and I'm not going to get.
I don't know what that is. The J.
It's the poker tournament, the poker tournament series in the UK. That's a smaller sort of 1K buy-in type tour that goes around the UK.
That's not that small.
No, I'm just in the context of the World Series. But yeah, he does write about a hand that maybe if we have more time one week that we will get into. So we're not going to get quite into that. Quick Roscoe report.
Quick Roscoe? Okay, let me play this.
It's late. Roscoe's tired.
I've started playing live a lot again.
Did you?
And I play better live
than online.
Yeah,
turns out.
Probably because the money matters a little bit more, and I don't think I'm betting as much in those spots where guys I would not bet there. So I played a live PLO game. It was very spewy, which was nice. I've never really played on it was nice. I've never really played on a Tuesday afternoon, but it was still the same
crew,
familiar faces of people spewing. And
Tuesday afternoon spewers.
I played one hand where I had aces, and I flopped an ace, and I got all in against one pair and an 8 high flush draw, and the board paired on the turn, and then I got aces again on the button soon after, and I got all in pre-flop for it was a $1,500 pot, and I made aces full again.
The guy just shoved into you or something?
Yeah, and so I ran pretty good. It was an easy game.
When aces win big pots in PLO, you're going to do well.
Yeah.
That's a quick Roscoe report. You're back to live poker. This is at the Edgewater Casino here in Vancouver.
Yeah.
And what is it, 1-2 PLO? 1-2-5?
Yeah.
1-2-5. So we can expect some hands next week, hopefully?
Yes.
Okay, we'll do that. Let's get to the Invitational. This is the PokerStars Invitational for Pokercast listeners. It is a $1.10 buy-in Sundays, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. in GMT in England. This added to your Sunday grind. If you're playing the Sunday tournaments, $500 overlay or added. Sorry, $500 added from PokerStars.
$500
layover to the prize pool. We need a password this week. Why don't we go with Duhamel, Duhamel. I'm tired too. Mm-hmm. We're going to get through this show, I promise. Duhamel is the password. Terrence, what do you think for a format for the?
Well, I think it's only appropriate. We had Ellie and we had Duhamel join us on the break in, of course, the $10,000 horse. It seems only appropriate that we would put in the horsey.
Let's play the horse.
Yeah.
Dun, 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 dun. We will play. Horse is going to be the format. Duhamel the password.
Okay. It was the format last week, but I think...
we love it so much when we play it again.
I think, give it a second shot.
What about the play money? The play money is going to also be the horse?
Yeah, of course.
Let's do that. Same pass. Oh, there's there's a password.
Yeah, password.
All right, so the play money...
Work on your stud games, guys. Work on your stud games.
Yeah.
All right, that's going to do it for the show this week. This was a long one. You got yourself a heck of a lot of fun coming up to edit this puppy. We abandoned the studio because
2 locations, 5 guests, or however many guests.
Yeah, let's go through them. Let's thank the humans, the 9 humans that were on this show. Ready? Are you guys ready?
Wow.
I'm not thanking myself.
And you naming them all without looking at your notes. Go for it.
I'm not going to thank myself. I was one of the humans. Terrence, thank you for joining us from Las Vegas, Nevada. I appreciate that after busting out of the little one. I know that's not fun. Roscoe, for all the work you've done and are going to do here in the next little bit. That's the three humans that we have. Jamie Staples, who joined us to talk about the big game over at the Aria, the big $250,000 buy-in. Ellie Elezra for joining us on the break in the 10K horse and talking about his bracelet
of which
win.
he is, at this moment, the chip leader with 149,500 chips at this very moment, according to WSOP.com. So who knows if that's accurate. But,
karma, that's fantastic.
Hopefully it's true.
Legit.
Scott Vener for joining us to talk about his deep run in the 5K Turbo event and also some Entourage stuff. Jonathan Duhamel, who joined us also from the 10K horse. Is he second in chips?
No.
He's not.
He's not doing quite as well.
Steve Day joining us from the Isle of Man. Thank you so much to him. Is that it? Is that all the humans?
Yep.
I believe
that Pope.
That Pope, yes, of course. I forgot
So
a human.
close.
That Pope for stopping in and giving us a quick rundown of the old eBay story that he has. Thanks so much for you out there listening. Really appreciate tuning in every week. And please jump over to our thread. I beg of you, if it's one thing you can do for us, head on over to the Where You're Listening To from thread. And
Just post in the forum generally. We love the forum interaction.
Yes, we love it. We need it.
Refresh it all the time.
We it's what keeps us going over here. So do that. Next week we'll have a whole bunch more worlds. So we'll be in the main event country. Terrence, you'll be playing what, day one? 1A? Sorry, 1A?
Leaning towards day 1A, maybe B, but leaning towards A right now. Might as well knock it out on the Sunday and see how it goes and feel good and rest 2 days off. But looking forward to joining you on one of my days off. I'm definitely not going to play C, so that'll be Tuesday and Thursday are the 2 C days, so I'm not playing those.
All right, let's aim for Tuesday next week. Appreciate you taking time out with us, and we will talk to you next week.
Jumps over the lazy dog. Jumps over the lazy dog.
What are you doing?
I can't remember the anchor. It's Anchorman humor. All right. Roscoe, you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Thumbs up. We're good.
Thanks for joining us. The 2+2 Pokercast has been presented to you by the Pokerstars VIP